connected with the shoes of the Rabbi, which means that it belongs to the Rabbi. It's a place that belongs to the Rabbi. And the truth is that when we speak about the Torah given to us as a Yerusha, for example, and when we speak about the Torah as a Yerusha, for example, so that stock is something that Torah is given to us. We have a chelik in it. Yeah, Moirosha Kehilas Yaakov. Anyone who's from the Kehilas Yaakov gets the Torah as a Yerusha. But a Mokim Hefker is a place that doesn't belong to anyone. It's a matzav that the balabos gives up the chayfetz that he wants to be mafkir. And it's true, he gives the shoes to anyone who picks it up to have the kinyan of the chayfetz. But what's the point of giving the Torah and a mokem hefker in such a way? Why can't it be in a way that, we know Torah is given to us in a way that we're receiving it and it's ours? What's the saying of mokem hefker? Every person has a hand on it. Even Kol Boy Oilam have a hand in it. When it's a union of hefker, it's not the Kehilas Yaakov. So the explanation is one of the many explanations. In general, in Torah we see it's brought down in many places that the Torah was given Achas Diber Elekim Shtaim Zu Shamati, which means that the Torah was given there was two aspects of Torah that were given to the Yidden. There was the aspect of Achas Diber Elekim, the way the Torah is in the highest level. Right, the highest level of Torah. And then there is a way the Torah was given to us as a seres hadibris. Shtaim zu shamati, and then divided into 10, and then divided into all the mitzvahs. And that is the way the Torah is more. It's more the Torah, the way we were able to perceive it more, understand the details of it. We see the same thing also regarding. We see in Pirkei Avos, Asro ma'amoros nivra olam, v'alo b'maimer echad yochel liboros. Right? It's explained. There's two aspects in the way the world was created. The world is created in a way of ma'amer echad, right? Einod milvadoi, and the world is created in a way of asro ma'amoros, the way it is, the details of everything in the world, which are both important. So. The Aseres HaDibra is the Shtaim Zu Shamati, the way the Torah is broken down into Pratim, the way it's part of the world. That Torah we got as a Yerusha. That Torah actually we acquired. The Eibusha gave it to us. And gave it to us in a way that we're able to handle it, deal with it. But the way the Torah is Achas Dibra Elokim, the way the Torah is Meuchad with the Eibishter, the way the Torah is, on the highest level, that's something that we cannot have any balabatishkar over it in a way. The Eibishter can't give it to us in a regular way of Yerusha, Matana. Rather, the Eibishter has to be mafkir it. Kivyochel. And then, we are able, once the Eibishter is mafkir, we're able to have some kind of a kinyan over it. As it's pointed out that we have in Hefker, you have two. It's brought from the Rogatchover. You have two nyonim in Hefker. You have the Hafkoros of the Bailim, and then there is the Reshus that the Bailim give at the same time for the person who's koine to acquire it. So, but this level of Torah was the level that the Eibush had to be mafkir it in a way that for us to be able to have some kind of a kinyan over it, he had to let go of it in a sense, and us being able to pick it up in our own level. So here the Eibishter was meramez into this two inyonim, giving it to us as a Yerusha, as a Matana, at the same time as Hefker. The Blavik. Okay. Anyways, so that's just an akuda, placing with Malchus. So today, Baruch Hashem, we have a special Rabbonim from, as we always have the minig here, to have a representative from the different kehilas, from Lubavitch, from the kehilas of Davimi, of Uchermont, from the Shluchim, and from the actually Jungalite that learn here on a regular basis. So we'll start with Harav Mendel Melul, Menachem Mendel Melul, who is a chaver in the koilel of the Mont-Real Torah Center here in Hempstead, to share with us Divrei Torah.
Okay, you know, you see that. So erstens, Yasher Koyach to the Ma'agenim, the Kינוס Torah. It's one of the things that the Rebbe Otangefit, Rebbe instituted, Beroshom Yedidi, Rabbi Shmuel Shuchad, that's working tirelessly, that's Locha the Meisit. The time that we have, especially when we talk about big inyanim, Dvorim she'ein lahem shir v'ein lahem kitzva, at least a bit Poischim b'chvei achsanya. I thought 2 days ago in the shir of the Rambam Hayomi. So the Rambam brings the Mishnah Nido, brings in the Chulin as well, that Kol sheyesh, the simonim of Dogim, right? We're learning Ilchas Machol Sasubis. So the Mishnah says, Kol sheyesh le kaskeses, yesh le snapi. That if a fish has scales, automatically it has skin. It has fins, right? If it has scale, automatically it'll have fin. It can be the other way. However, if it has fins, it doesn't mean that it has scale. The Gemara is asking a question, if that's the case, why did the Torah write the word kaskeses? Let the Torah say only fins, snappy. Tonu dvei Rabbi Yishmael, that the Gemara Yagdil Torah v'yadi. Yagdil Torah v'yadi. So, what's the in of Yagdil Torah v'yadi? So, in Verbindung of Yud Shvat of Shir Chavod, is doch der Meiset. In Yud Shvat of Shir Chavod, the Rebbe explained that even though Torah is a Meloshon Eiro, Lilmid Ulalamit, however, the Iker in of Torah is something as Lamaylam no Eilam. Alpayim Shona Kodmo Torah lo Eilam. And therefore, what's the in of Yagdil Torah v'yadi? The M is the inyan from Torah, the way it is above an inyan from Eiro, from Ashloch HaMaisis, above from pragmatic implications. And it's Yagdil bekamus v'yadi be'echus, to increase in Torah, in the kamus of Torah, in the echus of Torah. Ad kan divrei Harav. There's another word in Pia Shmuel, it's a geschmack word. It's asking the same question. How does Yagdil Torah v'yadi landed over there? Dafkin the in of snappy v'kaskeses. So the vote is that snappy is the kaskeses beweist of Boki, Sinai, accumulating a lot of ideas, Sinai. However, snappy, fins, refers to pilpul, oimek, to navigate information, to go deeper into it, pilpulin, oikehori. So kol sheyesh le kaskeses, whoever has bekiyas, yesh le snappy, right? That person will could have a proper oikehorim. But if someone has oikehorim without Sinai, then it's not going to work. Okay, good. The inyan that we're going to be talking about, whatever, it's, at least we'll scratch the surface. It's a big inyan. So let's try to bring the inyan in ikim, the idach zil gmai. So the question we have is, actually based on a question somebody asked, we learned Mishnah daily. We learned the Mishnah Mayim Odom al Tvuosi Machnisosu b'Meitz Shalo, that a person is able to do ha'aroma, whichever we translate this, to do a clever thing, to do things in a different way, to avoid a particular chiyuv. So this Yid, a simple Jew, is asking me a question: how come? How could it be that there is something that could be done to avoid the chiyuv? There's a chiyuv meiser, there's a chiyuv truma. Same thing the other way. which we'll see a lot of the references that we're talking about come to the same point, which is on the other side. If a person doesn't have a chiyuv in a particular inyan, and he's able to come lidei chiyuv, does he have the obligation to do so? Let's take tzitzis for example. Tzitzis, the big marimot, right? Tzitzis is a choivas beged. You need to have a garment of four corners. So if a person doesn't have it, doesn't wear it, is there chiyuv? No. Is there any inyan for this person to do this mitzvah? So it happens to be an inyan which is a little bit there's a lot of steers in this from different places. For example, the Gemara in Gittin says that that in the earlier generation, but in the last generations, right? Which means that even though some tried to teach what is Deus HaAchreinim in the later generations, I mean they didn't do it kedin. Ben Ishchai learned it. But Be'emes, some were made that we find in the Yerushalmi that Gedolim, that Rabbi Yossi, that Rebbe, and Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina were machnis perisim derech gagas. So obviously they didn't do anything wrong with it, right? So we're saying that taket atzido as a mitzias. There is such a mitzias of avoiding or being mafkia, if we could say a certain mitzvah. There's in chalo, if you're able to have chalo pachs mikashir or not, a Yerushalmi, a Rambam, and Shulchan Aruch, that you can't make chalo pachs mikashir, you can't do. A person would want to bake less to avoid shir challah, less than the shir, it's awesome. So in a way to understand this, let's at least get a bisla, at least the main mekayres in Gemara that are able to, that are addressing it. Erstens, there is one of the mekayres, which agav, this is the India, we don't see so much in Rishonim, it's more in Achronim, I would even say more recent Achronim that are mismakin on this nekuda. When is it? When can we say? When is it a problem to have afkor? When is it a problem that there is no afkor? So there is a Gemara in Menachos Daf Mem Aleph, famous Gemara, the famous sugi everybody knows about, the geder of tzitzis, is a chayvas gavo, chayvas talis, and the Gemara says a very interesting story. The Gemara says, "Upligo de malocho." The malocho ashke chile Rav Katino. A maloch found Rav Katino. The michse sadino. He was covered with a sad. He was covered with a talis that doesn't have a chiv tzitzis shal pishto. So Omali, the malach says, Katino, sadino bekaito v'sabelo b'sisvo, tzitzis shal tchilas mata heoleo. You're putting on yourself tzitzis that have no chiyuv. What's going to be with the mitzvah of tzitzis? Omali, to that he answers on shisu aseh. Yeah, Rav Katina answered back, is there an oynesh v'aseh? So Omalei, to that the Malach answers, Bizman di iko ritcho anshinon. Whenever there is a zman of oynesh, so on that there is a zman of gvura, a zman of kas, there is it could be an oynesh as well. And the Gemara is mesakin, without going into the potim, chayvus gav, chayvus mona, even though it could be that it makes a difference, that the kavonas Malach was tatzteki lemifto nafshich mitzitzis, that you're doing a tachbula to get out of tzitzis, and that's something that shouldn't be. So what's tut sich da? If we think of a story like this, but what's going on? It's very pshutim. There's two types of mitzvahs, right? There's a mitzvah that we call the mitzvah chiyuvis, a mitzvah that must be, there's no way out of it, mitzvah of tefillin, mitzvah of Shabbos, right? But then there is a mitzvah kiyumis. Kiyum is the pshat that you need it if you find yourself in such a matziv, so then you have the mitzvah. A person that has a karka is chayiv all the dinim that a karka has. A person that has a house is chayiv in a mezuzah. If he doesn't have a house, Loshen Harambam Yidua, if he's living in a sfina or in an oyhel, there's no mitzvah of mezuzah. So how could there be here that there's an oynish for mitzvahs tzitzis when the chulot tzitzis is mitzvah kiyumis? It's a mitzvah that's only a person that has a dark knofis. If a person doesn't have mehechates. So this machlokes of Rishonim on how to explain the story and automatically how to apply the story to other places as well. For example, the Mordechai and the Tosfos and Erchin are explaining that this tatztiki that we're talking about over here is the Bizman HaGemorah. It's not something that could be easily applied to any other mitzvah. We're talking, there's a unique situation here, which means that Bizman HaGemorah, they say, all their garments were garments of four corners. So, being that all the begadim were begadim of four, therefore, when somebody is changing it, that's tatztiki, right? You have in your hand a baguette of four, and everybody goes with four, and you're cutting one of the corners, or even with that, but the etzim that everybody goes with dalet, you go with gimel, you go with something that's not chayv b'tzitzis. This is called a tachbulo. This is stepping out of the mitzvah. However, if the person in a different time doesn't have a tzitzis, there's no mitzvah, so to say, l'chazer. However, Tosfos and Menachos and other Rishonim explain, no, that's the way we understood the Gemara is kipshuta. And they say, Tosfos says it al adaf, that what does it mean on shisu asay? That Rav Katino's question was, avada in asay, there's two types of asays, right? There's asay that's a chiyuv, it's a sukkah, lulav. So those mitzvahs, to avadas is a einish. Tosfos brings him aramokim. However, anything that's a mitzvah kiyumis, why in such a case, why should there be a einish? And to that the Malach says, because of because a person is meant to be mishtadel, to be part of the mitzvah. So even though a chiyuv there isn't, however, bisman of deritcho, a person could be nanash for that as well. Now, an interesting thing, what's taka? It's a little bit difficult to understand. What does it mean? There's no mitzvah for tzitzis. There's no chiyuv for a person to buy himself avaditz mitzvah min amufcha, the way Alter Rebbe explained in Shulchan Aruch. But meiko de dino. However, if a person doesn't have it, beidno deritcho, he has an einish. What's taka pshat? So there is an interesting kuntas achen in Hilchos Talmud Torah, which I think, which brings taka the Gemara, and I think it could bring a little bit of clarity. Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Talmud Torah, the long kuntas achen is defining the amount, the geder of Talmud Torah. So a person needs to work for a living. Say that. Now, how much should he work? Should he work for basic, to be able to live, and the rest should be learning? Or a person is able to learn Perik Echot Shachris, Perik Echot Avis, and to work the rest? What is... So, the Alter Rebbe tells over here, very geschmack kuntas achen, it's mamish kedai to look inside, that even though there is a geder from the mitzvah, a person could do it in a basic way. However, roi v'nochem l'chol adam, it is worthy for every person to be mekabel upon himself chayitzah, even if you will not be zoiche take to have abundance in parnasa, but it's worth it for him kedel zakes bekita shal toyo. Word of the Alter Rebbe, which means that even though a person is not mitzuvah, right, to devote, to give his entire day for limud Torah, he has no mitzvah for it, he has no chiyuv for it. However, we find, says the Alter Rebbe, v'ashkechon k'hai gavno einish al bitul mitzvah av shepoto medina. We find, we have a marimakim for this, says the Alter Rebbe. We already learned in Menachos the Gemara we just learned before, that there's an einish if a person is mevatel mitzvah, even though if the etzem is poto min adin, right? Alter Rebbe gabi tzitzis grav katino perik atcheos lefi adas atuv v'shulchan aruch de lo yisviru k'mishkas v'mordechai. And the Alter Rebbe continues that who is it that could get this einish? Not every single person. This is dafke shedai to yofil atzliach b'limudai, a person that has atzloch in his learning, a person that's shayich. So on that person, there could be take a inyan of einish, but on a regular person, that's not for him. So al derech zeh, maybe we could use the same inyan, because the tzushtah is already made here, that avade for a regular person that doesn't understand the yoiker of a mitzvah, no. But if a person that understand the importance, every mitzvah, especially the way it's explained in Chassidus, that the Rotzno Elyon that's in every single mitzvah, so that you should be mechazer, you should have a shaykhs to it. So this is a very choshev marimokim as we dealing with this. We see two ways of understanding this Gemara Menachos, and there is actually a big ashlocha, which is, do we say the same thing in other mitzvahs as well? Which means in the mitzvah, it's a mitzvah kiyumis. Does a person have a certain, is it nochus for the person to do it? Right? Chiv midiraisa. No, actually, another very choshev marimokim to this is a tzemach tzedek. Is a tzemach tzedek in Yegdiel Simin Tzadik Beis, very mechudesh to tshuva. It's not much worth it to go inside. Tzemach tzedek discusses ben inyan shenishal. The question is interesting. If a person was asked if he's allowed to buy, what does he want to buy? So, person that wants to sell himself to the army. What are we talking about? So you see that when they drafted Yidden to the army, so they had the right, they had the possibility to get somebody else instead of them. And that person wants to buy the place of the other one. And the question came to the Tzemach Tzedek, are you allowed to do such a thing or not? Along get tshuva, but that's actually a question that's negate our case, right? Which means a person is doing a certain maisa, he's signing a document, and through his maisa, he's putting himself in such a situation, in such a setup, that he won't keep Shabbos, it could be, you won't be able to keep kashrus. It's actually even worse, right? In such a case, we're talking about lavin, it's not just aseh. So Tzemach Tzedek discusses a lot, what's the in of afko? Is it a chiv de'raiso that the person says? Is it a chiv de'rabonon? He has a few diukim that it's de'rabonon. But in one of the things, Tzemach Tzedek, he brings, and that's how the tshuva starts, that there is the rivosh in tshuva sim yud zayin, that for the Yehudim, for Yidden, it's actually brought down in Shulchan Aruch also, I think Shulchan Chav Dalet, that Yidden that go to work, for schoir or mischo, and they have to be mechal Shabbos v'faresya. Yeah, that's once they go b'midbar, shayor, wherever it is, you can't stop in the middle. So what's the din? The Rivosh says that that the heter is b'shloisha yomim rishonim min hashavua, to go the first 3 days of the week. Because then, even if there will be a sakonon, you will need chilul. However, mipnei pikuach nefesh mutuhu. So later in this tshuva, Tzemach Tzedek is asking, l'chura take, but the kosher the isa b'menachos l'chura, based on what we learned the Gemara Menachos, tatzdeki lemifto nafshecho mitzitzis. Is a person able to make a tachbula from a mitzvah? In other words, how is it that we could give a heter for someone to set himself up in such a way that the lav, it's worse than the Gemara Menachos. Over there it's a saint. Over there, it's much worse. And the Tzemach Tzedek's word here is azoit. That's actually part of the question. That a difference should be made if a person is doing something without force. In other words, when we're talking about tatzdeki, the Gemara Menachos, that a person is doing something wrong, is only if nothing forces him. Right? If nothing forces him and nevertheless is avoiding or mafkiya the aseh. But over here, if a person is muchach lotzis lemitbov, assume that there is a letzoyrech, that a person to a degree has a need to do it, lechayin nafshoy, lepanusosei, ledvar mitzvah, even that day itself. So on that, that's the key, is not applicable. So it's actually, it's not looks a little bit mechudesh. So actually, a while ago, the Igas Moshe also has interesting tshuva. If a person is able, the shaila that he received, actually 2 tshuvas he has, sukkis, and a person would want to go to a place, l'tainug ba'alma, cholamoy trip, and in that place, he won't have a sukkah, right? He won't have a sukkah. So he's setting himself up in a way that mitzvah sukkah will be mufka, so to say. So, what's the din? So if Moshe is he's starting the dinim of Hoichet Drochim, right? There's such a din in Sukkah that if a person goes on the road, he has is potur. Hoichet Drochim pturim min Sukkah. But then you could wonder, Hoichet Drochim, people that go on the way, but why? Why are they going on the way? Why are they on the road? It's chayra. Is there tzorech? So in Igos Moshe, the psak is that Hoichet Drochim is only when there is a certain tzorech. Whatever tzorech is, it's a different thing. But there's a tzorech. But a person that wants to go to Tainug, then by the end of the tshuva, Moshe says, "Velulei kol zeh," without going into all the gdorim. If Hoichet Drochim is nisht. What about Tatzdeki? That's the case of Tatzdeki. The fact that the person is setting himself up in a way to avoid the mitzvah, and it's only the tainug ba'almo, so avada, that it's also to do such a thing. So, this is the first sugya. Yeah. There's another two sugyas about this, which are worth it, but to see inside. There is a sugi in Kiddushin Daf Lamed Beis that the Gemara over there says that we should be standing in front when there's a zokin seva. So Yochel Yatzim Einov Kamoisher Ohu, right? I would think that when you see, you have to stand up. But if you don't see, which closing your eyes is a way out. Through closing your eyes, you're able to mafkia. And you have an exemption of doing it. Talmud Leima tokum v'yoreso. This is why it says that takid adovra mosul lev nema b'y v'yoreso melikecho. And then the Gemara further says that what are we talking about? That if a person stam closes their eyes, otu birishia skinan. Are we talking about stam rishoyim? We're talking about yatzim einov mikomed limti zman chiyuvo. Person closes their eyes before actually he has his man chiyuv, before the zaken is close enough. The kimot zman chiyuv holi chazili the koy mekame, that when the zman chiyuv will come, he doesn't see him. Talmud leima tokum v'yoreso. So we have over here a very choshev ma'arimokim, and the Bir Halacha brings us in many places, that from here we see that a person could not be mafkia a mitzvah. So, I mean, a lot of things have to be worked out here. Ashton's, why does the Torah have to say dafke in this mitzvah? Why do v'yoreso melikecho? Once the Torah says it is only there, one of the Baal HaTosfos says that it's dafke over there and not in other places. But this is the second sugya, and finally the third sugya, which I don't know why, but it seems the sugya discusses it the most, is B'chayos Daf Gimel Amud Beis, where over there's a long story of Mori Bar Rochel, and all the dinim of Afka over there are discussed. Potim and potim, along Yeshitas Abinutam. When is it that the person could be mafkia, can be mafkia? So leave it to this, but let's see when we say Kabbalah Satoiro Besimchu Bepnimius. So in a simple sense, if Achsidish Neufen, Kabbalah Satoiro means avada to be mekabel the mitzvahs that we have, but even the mitzvahs that were lav dafke gonna come, right? We're not dafke in such a setup, but these mitzvahs are here, which means the way it is, there is a way taked that we're not mechuyev in it. Nevertheless, a person has to be mekabel that as well, because many shittas like the Charedim says it clearly. So this is the if kloli the main mekaymes the idach zil gmoy yeshakay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rabbi Melul. Next we have Rabbi Ben Zion Carmel, who's a Rosh Kollel, Oira Meir, as well as a Magachir in many places. So it's an honor to have him with us tonight.
Ja, יש כובד דort zu sein. Und besonders der Schkoech, Shabbat. I was never here. Baruch Hashem, it looks like a beautiful book in Torah. Maybe it'll start coming. Baruch Hashem.
This is just microphone.
Okay, shkoyach. The title this year was going to be about redeeming captives, Pidyon Shvuyim. Pidyon Shvuyim l'or ha'alacha. Can move on this two separate sugyas you have to discuss. One would be Pidyon Shvuyim, ransoming captives for money. One discussion. And the einzige discussion, practical discussion, more in it's a soul, and the einzige Zeit is not for money. Pidyon Shvuyim means redeeming captives, but it's going to come from the cost. You're going to have to release some prisoners from jail, which is potential sakana in the future. A mimer from Moshe Feinstein, someone wrote down, because someone was there, like a diary. He wrote down every day when he was there. It's called the Sefer Maseres Moshe. He writes there that Moshe said he doesn't understand why they keep the Arab, the Mechablim, why they keep them alive. If they would make a death penalty on all of them, so then there never would be a motive to get a mention. There would be no prisoners available to redeem. It would be a very smart idea. But the Matzav K'moshe that's maybe you're talking a motive, and that itself would be a sibe not to be paid the shvim on us came, well that can see bring who knows in the future. They're going to have more to be able. Maybe saying the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't discuss obviously freeing terrorists from jail, but the Gemara is a regular putting in shvim of geld. It's a Gemara, it's a Mishnah in Gittin. In the Mishnah, out of them two times. And really, these two reasons, how you paskin on these two reasons the Gemara gives, is going to be a very, very big difference la halacha, and maybe relative to Pidyon Shvuyim of the hand again helfen. Mishnah Gittin, Asheleach, fourth perik, Staf Mem Hey, dort steht as Mishnah in Poidem sa Shvuyim yesa al kedei de meihem mit mei tikno oilam. Sa tikno oilam, agzeh, da konas Chazal, the Chacham am Mesachen gewesen, that don't be poi de shvuyim, yesert mi kedei de mayhem. What's kedei de mayhem? Andere werden fragen, what's kedei de mayhem? So then, of them are Shuvas Maram Lublin, mit der Advaz. Made the mayhem means how much you would take if you'd sell them as a avid. Not that much. I don't know, I weiß nicht, but ich stell mal vor. Not the kind of money that they want. But what's the reason ain't boys as Shvuyim Yesal Kedei the mayhem? So says the Gemara, Boilu, what's the time? Boilu, ha, haim ibnei tekeno oilam, shum duchke de tziburahu. Look at the tzibur, so it costs us, it's going to cost too much, everyone go bankrupt. If you allow when they buy the Shvuyim, every single time they capture one person, it's $1 million, so well, that's good. Or, second reason maybe, Oy dilma mishum de leile garvi velaisi tvei. They'll have a big incentive, it's chap mehr, because it's worth it. The Geschäft lohnt sich. What's the nafkemin? What's the nafkemin? Nafkemin says the Gemara is, you see it from the Raya, says the Gemara, Toshma al-Maise, when I eat, Levi bar darge. What is that? Toshma, the Levi bar darge, parko, liberate, betleisa al-fedin rizov. Ausgelesen Tochter, that was Moti gefangen, he redeemed his daughter for 13,000 dinars off. Das ist neue, riesige kames Geld. So, the Chayre is that is Megastan. So what are we trying to make a raya? Saying if the reason would be because of Duche de Tzibure, he paid himself for his own daughter. No problem, Duche de Tzibure. It wasn't Mapalat ala Tzibur, he didn't make appeals in alle bottom of Dosham, but allein gezahlt of them. Irgendwann agvir, got a bisschen Geld, it's getan. If it's Duche de Tzibure, very good, versteht man es. But if the town would be Leile Gabe, Velaise Tvei, it's going to give a big incentive to catch more people, because in the future you're also going to get Efter was the treffen noch a gewiss Tochter, and you're going to get a lot of money. So sagt die Gemorre, Chore, von da hat man eine Reihe, dass der Riesen ist doch in die Zibule. Sagt die Gemorre, nein, sagt die Gemorre, was deiche. Sagt die Gemorre, Omer Abaye, man leimelon der Bezogen Chacham im Ovad. Nu, wer sagt, leben mit Darge, wenn er Talmud Chacham, wer sagt dazu gefolgt, wer ist gegangen, Bechlauf wegen Arav? Who said, was Bezogen Chacham, was hat getan? Efter, es gewann schon leben Bezogen Chacham. Okay, a Gemorre, zwei Teimen, a Raya, and the Raya itself leads us to a nafkamine. The Raya itself brings out to us a point, brings out to us that if there is a dukkha de tzibura, then if you sponsor yourself, no problem. If you have a rich uncle and he'll take care of it, there's no problem dukkha de tzibura, you can spend as much as you want. But if the reason is, like Garba Relai Sitvei, says, you're not allowed to spend a penny more than the going price of an Eved, because otherwise they're going to start taking people, echte links. So ich kann nicht sagen. Die Gemara try to bring a raya to the side of the tzibura, so tzikabaya, man leimalon de Bezogen Chacham. Wer sagt, dass genau ist gehalten? He doesn't say, mit Kiefes, nein, du bist nicht gerecht, das ist nicht der Ding. He just says, wer sagt, dass du bist gerecht? Who says it's a raya? Taisis fragt von anderen Gemara. Bekannte Gemara, jeder weiß die Gemara. Die Gemara ist, was Menschen lernen auf Tischbau von der Agadete Gemara, andere lernen der Gemara, so gehen gitten. Es ist Meise, Tona Bona Meise, Bibshur Bechanania, Gemara gitten darf nun Ches. Sheholach lekra Godel Sheberoimi. Dort hat gesehen, Amolai Tinnik Echadish Beis Asurim, Yifei Anayim, Toiv Roi, a kid in Beis Asurim, Zeta is Mamish, Zeta is Hashem, Noisachem, Holach V'Amad Pesach Beis Asurim, Omar, he said a pasuk, Mi Nosam LeMishiso Yankev, Yisrael LeBoizizim. Ono is a Tinnik V'Amar, hat jene Tinnik zugehört der Anfang pasuk, da ist gewährt der pasuk. Haloi Hashem Zuchat Onoloi, Veloi Avu Bedrach Avaloich, Veloi Shomu Beterosoi. Omer, he said, jene Tinnik Mamish, agar ist a Talmud Chacham, Uftechani Boi Shemoire Rabbi Yisrael, der Reis gefiert der Bishue, Bishue Bechanania, Avoida, was in Shvue, der Geschwören, Shen Izos, Mikana, Shavdena, Bechol Moment, Shepoisken Olaf. Whatever they want, I'm paying. Ich mach schechillig wie viel Geld. Hat Talmud Chacham, hat kleine Engel, so geschickt, Omer, Lezos, Mishon, Shepodu, Bemomen Harbe. Loi, Ho, Yom, Mu'otim, at Shehoida Rabbi Yisrael, und wer jene Tinnik, Manu Bishmol ben Elisha. Bekannte Bishmol ben Elisha, Bishmol ben Elisha, andere sagen, wir können Gott, Efsha nicht, Bishmol ben Elisha, der Tinnik. Kids have a very more that is spent money, nicht dann als Geld, kaum Moment schon bei Eulam. When she is willing to pay everything. Das fragt das jetzt, wieso stimmt das Bechlal mit Janik Amor, that they're not allowed to pay more, whatever the reason is, Lachara doesn't fit. It was a stranger, maybe it wasn't going to be Mapalat Smealat Zivir, but Lachara is a kasha. Das fragt der Shaila. Das ist auch zweite Rutzen. One there is the fish muflik bechachme. Ob Sanaya hätte, Talmud Chacham muflik bechachme, everyone needs a Talmud Chacham, muflik bechachme shiny. Okay? Inami, b'shas chuben abayis lo yishayach deloi legarvi. Hitler Taisis says a sure sword. Taisis says a sword, if they be oimed on the sword. Taisis says, b'shas chuben abayis lo yishayach deloi legarvi. Why are you worried that if I'm going to pay a lot of money, they're going to catch more? They're capturing everyone that they could. B'chol oifim, b'chol gavni. While ich lego is mehr Geld, they're going to capture more. They're taking it by the feast. They're grabbing on all sides. You're spending more money is not going to cause anything. So the reason of the Garba Velai is that don't give money because they might catch more. It's not the game. Fertig gönnen sein gar nicht. So ich denke, da ist es tut rutzen. Muflik b'choch meshani, b'shas chuben abayis lo yishayot lo Garba. Okay? Those are the Taisis in the Gemara that Mem Hey, where there it says the two reasons Taisis is, was tut mit der andere Gemara Bishur ben Chananya, Taisis says tut rutzen. But the Taisis in the other Gemara, the Taisis on Bishur ben Chananya, over there, Daf Nun Ches, Taisis there has a different tut rutzen. One the same, one different. Taisis is the same kasha. There it says he spent all the money. It says in the Mishnah earlier that you're not allowed to. So Taisis says tut rutzen. One is, here was Ika Ktola shiny, it's going to be Pikuach Nefesh. One new teretz. Pikuach Nefesh is different. It means the whole Gemara from one point is yes, what they do mayhem. It's only without Pikuach Nefesh. And she's not from Pikuach Nefesh, she's not Pikuach Nefesh. She's not from Pikuach Nefesh. It's gefährlich. So be in jail longer? No. But Pikuach Nefesh, then you can spend whatever you want. Say the teretz. In Abi, Rishon, Muflik B'chachma. Same andere teretz, that was the first teretz. Is the second teretz, one teretz is the same, muflik b'chachma, is da a andere teretz. In the first teretz has a teretz, der b'shas churben lo shach lo legarve 2, was nicht gebringt da, und in der teretz ist der andere teretz, was nicht dort, das ist pikuach nefesh. Okay? Da andere teretz mal ein paar andere Scheinen. Shulchan Aruch, wie sie passt kann man. So the Rambam Paskin says it clearly. The Rambam Matzanim, so the reason is the reason is you're going to capture more people. The Rambam learned because there's a Gemara by someone who has his wife, how much he has to pay to redeem her. And the other Machlaikis, the Tanakama says over there you pay Adasor upon Vidomeho, you have to redeem your wife. And Shem Gamliel says no, you pay exactly what is value, another penny more. The Ran and the Rosh say that the Rambam had angenommen, if the other Gemara has a Machlokes Tanoim, Shem Gamliel says that you pay only Kedei Dameh, I'll take a pasuk to Shem Gamliel. So that's a cloud. You always pass on Shem Gamliel in the Mishnah. In the Obezer, it's only Kedei Dameh, and the Rambam pasuk Kedei Dameh. And if so, a husband spending money on his wife, why can't he spend whatever he wants? If the reason, just like Levi ben Darga was able to spend as much money as he wants, if the reason is duchte di tzibure, so someone should be able to pay on his wife also as much money as he wants. And the Rambam says you only spend exactly her value. Is a raya, the Rambam verstanden that is mechiach of Shem Gamliel really held the other reason. The reason of the legar v'elaisi tvei. And now the Rambam pasket does it. The Ran argues, that's a saket. The Ran says, the Raya says, it's all of Shem Gamliel, and the Ran pasket faket. And the Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, ausgepasst to legar v'elaisi tvei. The Chayre, and Afgamina, in relation to our question, if the reason is duche de tzibure, so I know we come to rein, if the chayzim for duche de tzibure, if it's not costing money, also, let us do the Medina should spend money, I don't know, whatever, they'll just raise the taxes a little bit. Also, if people are in jail, so you let a couple of people out, it's not duche de tzibure, it's the wrong words to say. It's not the right way to express it. The problem is not the kostenzi sach. If the problem is the legaru v'elaisi tvei, you don't want to do it because you're going to catch more. That's a serious issue. I mean, you can't say you want to be machmer and you're going to be nice and not allowed to because it's going to cause some problems in the future. And that's what it can sein. Das andere kommt mit der Hette, Asro, Toise sagt, Pikuach Nefesh Ani. Toise sagt, hat gefragt Akash im Shuvah Hanani, du komm in Shuvah Oilem. And Toise says, one teres, Pikuach Nefesh Ani. And that sounds like a Taisvis, but there's three Terutzim here, and who said that we pass in this teretz? And then when I said, it's not the first time that Eden were captured, unfortunately. See, when I looked there is, and it's not true of them for now, all the G'dolach Roinim. Everyone knows, I'm sure, the Maise from Rutenberg that was in jail, Yam Shlomo brings down. This is one of the big sources for the Maise. We don't know so much about the story, but over here in this sugi, Yam Shlomo brings down the Proton that Shamati that was in jail and didn't let them free him. Right? Everyone knows Maram Rutenberg was in jail, and not just he didn't let him be poidin. Yam Shlomo says, L'chayri, he was muflik b'chachmeh. Both Taisus say that if you're muflik b'chachmeh, you're allowed to go out for any money in the world. Yam Shlomo's answers maybe Maram Rutenberg gehalten that if he lets them free him for money, they're just going to take another chacham and another chacham. The same kind of svara of the legar v'elaisi tvei, they're going to start running after the chachamim. Whatever, you yourself you got out, but then everyone else is going to have a problem. And they should once and for all stop it, and then it's not going to happen anymore. It was Moshe Nefesh of them. But if the reason is like the legar v'elaisi tvei, kasha how you allowed to, so andere of them say, naya from Pikuach Nefesh. Maram Rutenberg, Maram Lublin, Maram Dezel, Maram from the Gomorrah, from the Dor, from Hashor, Maram. Der Scheile. Maram says, in Shtas a hette, don't say anywhere in Shas a hette from Pikuach Nefesh, in Shtas a hette. So you're not allowed to spend a penny more than the value, v'zehu. You're not in Shum Weg. Is alle G'doyle Ador von seinem Dor, ist da bei Silo, mit der Tvei Shmuel, the Esken, Chayz Beferish Taisvis. It's true, it's not on Dafnon Hey printed, it's printed on Dafnon Zion, but it's not so weit, and even if the Gemara Taisis est from, if you learn the Sugya, you can't miss a Taisis. die Knesset Yecheskel. Tshuvas Knesset Yecheskel, now sagt der scharfe Sach. Tshuvas Knesset Yecheskel says he has a teretz. What a teretz? He has a teretz, not just what the Maram Paskin, the Pekuach Nefesh, not different. He has a teretz to be mazbeh, how come Toises in one place says Azal kan zwei terutzim, and the andere Platz noch andere zwei. Says if you look in this Toises, the Toises on Daf Mem Hey, Toises on Daf Mem Hey says number one, Muflik B'chachma, okay. Inami b'shas churban habayis lo yishayich lo legarvi v'laisi tvei. B'shas churban habayis, the cheshbon that they're going to catch more people is not relevant. That will mazbeh because they're going to keep on catching. They're looking to catch as many as you want, so it's not for zachilik. I'm not going to goad me and cause me to catch more people because you're doing it, because you let them free for a lot of money. He says that svara goes with the mahalach of lo legarvi v'laisi tvei. Doesn't go with the svara of duche. If the svara was duche de tzibura, if the svara is duche de tzibura, it costs too much. So what are you telling me? Shas choven habayis, since they're already catching everyone they want, there's no cheshbon, you're allowed to pay as much as you want. Duche de tzibura is front a cheshbon. It's jena toises, that give paskent lo legarvi v'laisi tvei. Zeh toises, jena toises gehalten azoi. No meile, toises says, if the cheshbon lo legarvi v'laisi tvei, shas choven habayis. They're trying to catch as many people as they want, so it won't matter. The andere Toises says a cheshbon. Kolshken hoche di ikar ktole. So what's the cheshbon ktole? He says if you're nervous that they're going to catch more people, if that's the cheshbon, so what's the help? They took a captive and they started killing them. So what's going to happen? You're going to say, we have to, pikuach nefesh, we're going to have to spend money. Till now, we only spend the fair value. If he's alt, whatever, a mensch hat nicht so viel skills. You sell them for an effort is worth $50, you can only pay $50. But now that we're killing people, Nefesh will pay as much millions as you want. So they have a simple set. From now on, whenever they take a captive, they start shooting after 3 days, and then you'll pay everything in the world. So if the cheshbon is lo legarvi v'laisi tvei, if you're nervous that they're going to start capturing people because they're in business, they're going to make a lot of money, they can make a lot of money. They could capture a person and strashe that they're going to start shooting in 2 days. If they have a lot of captives, they could even shoot one, and then you pay everything you want, and then Gandit. The ganze takone that we shouldn't pay more because you're nervous that they're going to start capturing people so that they should be able to. If you tell me that when they kill people, it's mutter, das ist verdienen, das ist nicht kein hygienischer Teretz. He says, Toises there must be going with the sort of duche de tzibur. And we know, because nefesh, someone down the echer steht. Someone's about to die, you have to spend all your money to save his life. Auf das Wort von duche de tzibur, get neues alle Geld in der Welt. Er sagt das, der Teisig halten durch die Zibure, und der andere Teisig gepaskend, der gar beleidigt werden, so noch leukes Teisig sind. And he says, aber so, der Maram Lublin hat gepaskend, also wie der Rambam, die Shulchan Aruch, that the reason is why gar beleidigt werden, aber so, the fact that Pikuach Nefesh is not a factor. So jetzt, the trick, the thing we're trying to plug into is now, Lomared, and yet some atze from terrorists or something like this, we're trying to feed people from jail. If the sword is duchet is tzibure, maybe not. But lagar v'laisi tvei is lagar a big cheshbon. Westum is sagen, no, pikuach nefesh, the people that are not just stam shvuyim, this is pikuach nefesh cheshbon. She sagt, the Knesset Yecheskel, pikuach nefesh is nicht echt a cheshbon here, because if you're going to say that whenever they start killing people, then all of a sudden, then weiter they're going to start capturing. We can't let such a matzah. Better to have such and then they won't capture anymore. It's a waste that they should capture. And the psak should be, before someone comes with eigen esoros mebachutz, esoros what yadav zayin, pshutei, that you should not. The human, zwei heintige esoros, esora hin, esora her. One esora is said over from V'yashev, and all the others heintige rabbanim. It's already comes like 50 years ago. Someone also, I forgot the name of the sefer. But he said the svara also, but it's all from V'yashev, said also the svara, he said the svara like this. He said if Taisa says, Le'lagar v'valai sitvei, that means that B'shas Churban, they're capturing everyone that they could. No, so Bazoi, the Arabs is the same thing. They're trying to chop everyone that they could always. So because you let free someone, so long as the Geschäft, they're going to chop more, they're always trying to capture always as much as you were. So gesagt war einer, was sie gelebt hat, jetzt soll sein ganzes Leben. So ich stand before he knew before and afterwards, he sees that they're freeing the captives is not causing them to capture more. The gehalten is so, but so, if that's true, So what are you going to tell me? Don't release them because it's going to cause them to capture more. They capture more anyway. They capture as many as they're trying to do it always as much as they can be matzliach. So to tell me that you're not allowed to free because it's going to cause them to capture more, that's been again the time from Taisus to say not like that. With the poiskim that are makel, it's out of this svara. Also, this is not like the Taisus in, maybe passing like the other Taisus. There are for many poiskim that did say pikuach nefesh is different. Yom Shlomo passing is also pikuach nefesh is mater. Seems like all the poiskim did passing pikuach nefesh. Whatever, however you miyashiv the psak is a pikuach nefesh. Have another cheshbon pikuach nefesh, and the svara. Somewhat that everyone's thinking that it's not a good idea to free terrorists because in the future, if it's bringing us in a sakane, but this is a big machlokes. This is brought down there in Sma, means down there with Yosef. So Yosef says, is a person obligated to put himself into a sakane to take someone else out of a sakane? Yana is that definite sakane. Mamish a minute away from being gehargit, you can do something to save him. You're not definitely going to be in a sakana. You're only going to go into a suffix. You're being nichas into a suffix sakana. You might see yana from a vadai sakana. Yes, a mission brings a yeshalmi. They have to do it. No, maybe it's true that right now you have someone in a vadai sakana. You take him out of the vadai sakana. It's true that now it's going to come a future potential that maybe the terrorists are going to be mazik, lit free, and eventually in the future they're going to put massacre you a little bit. But it's only a suffix. But you still have to put yourself in a suffix sakana to take you out of a vada. So it's a case of Mishnah. The Sma of Chosh Mishpat, the Sefer Sma of Chosh Mishpat brings down the case of Mishnah and says that's not that in. This is paskin ishtazay. The Allah is not like that. We don't pass like this. You show me you don't have to. So not just don't have to. It's inappropriate. Inappropriate means you're not supposed to put yourself in a sakana to save Yanim. So if you're not supposed to put yourself in a sakana to save Yanim, so you should not. And Bam is the Shaila, it's not the first time you had a Shaila putting himself in Matzav in a sakana to save. So there are true here, Yosef, a Shaila, it seems like they asked him. I was later trying to be Mavara, I'm sure they asked other people also. And it seemed like I found a letter, a telegram from what's it called? The Goodis Rabbanon from New York also. It seems like they also got asked secretly. The day before on Tebi, the Shaila was asked to Gdol Ador if they're allowed to put people in a sakana to save other people, and could you free terrorists? Because they were at that point handling should be free or not. So openly they were saying they were going to make a trade, and meanwhile secretly they were planning a mission. So they reflect Enzach, but they also slipped in the other half also to hear what the Rabbanim have to say. And it's not shuvas of them. And the big shaila by such a thing is putting yourself in a sakana from all the soldiers that are going there, putting yourself in a sakana to take someone out that's in a vada sakana. And Rav Yosef brings a chazanish, he brings a moshel from chazanish, and it's a moshel you have to decide where to apply it and where not. He says the moshel is like this. He says, let's say someone goes and takes there's a bomb going, a missile. A missile is about to come and land on a building. Building is sought to have a sata, that's achiden. You know 100% is living there, 100 eden. If it lands there, it's for sure going to be a problem. But you have controls, and you could divert the missile. You can make it go somewhere else. If it goes somewhere else, wird sicher werden gehargit, unfortunately, about eden. No suffix. Aber nicht 100, not 2. 1, 2, 3, whatever, much less. But you're doing biyadaya. You're sending it to someone that's b'chalal not me'nyane. If they let the missile go on its own and you go back to sleep, Yana is going to be nothing in Nizik. But you right now, mamish the hargest Yana. You're killing Yana to save 100 people. Are you allowed to do this? It sounds like the achrayas making a zapsak is got a gross achrayas. But upon him, this is the idea for Chazanish is that he says, S'lochoyre mistafer, that this is not ritziche. This is hatzola. I'm saving. It's not a shayla who I should kill first. I'm trying to be a matzl. If this is the oifen ha'atzola. So Rabbi Yosef in that case, that made a lot of sense. There was, 200 captives, and they're going to go there 30 soldiers, and they're going to try to capture them, and maybe it's a sakana. So it says it's a small amount of people are being put in a high level in a sakana to remove others from a bigger sakana. It says, it's a pula satzola, I don't want anyone to die, I'm trying to save everybody. I hope that but even the whole putting in a sakana, even if it's true, I'm putting people in a sakana that are not in a sakana till now, it's much less. The people that are going to be in the high level sakana, if it doesn't work out, there's going to be this couple of soldiers. The other people are not going to be in the worst sakana. The other people, for them it's tzatzola. With them it's a gewalt matter. It's very good in such a case. You go and save 20 people and you're going to let 400 people out, and from the 400, very few sakanas can rauskommen. The statistics is not so positive anymore. Kitze can ich passen, but this much, we also said that they're trying to catch as much as they want. You have Leute Garvum, Places more zugestellt, the element of sakanas nefashis, a lot of places more matter. It's true, that's a geschmack bestimmt teure and bis Tshuva take, Shulchan Aruch in your day, Rishon Beis. That's where it talks about Hilchos bin Yishvuyim. It brings down a shaila Pikuach Nefesh is different, and it brings a machlokes, brings 2-3 shitas that say, yeah, Pikuach Nefesh is different, not Pikuach Nefesh is different. The guy says shaila Simcha Mekel Zam Pikuach Nefesh. But if you know that you have a starke svara, you have a starke svara to rely on, that Pikuach Nefesh is different. The Yam Shlomo says that the minig Yisrael Haksherim Mikama Doiris is to do it. When the Pikuach Nefesh to spend more than they have to, and the Dvaz also has a tshuva that the minig is to spend more than they have to. And even though the Gemara sounds like it's a Isra, he tries to find a whole bunch of different justifications. What's the pshat that the minig is? Whenever Yidden were captured, they went to Arz Yisrael and they went to redeem them for a lot of money. Sicher, das ist allemal gewinnt the minig. So man darf ein bisschen mitchen zu verstehen für was. And if the minig is to spend more, it seems like maybe we pass on the other side. That is als duche de tzibure. And if people are willing to give willingly and happily, so was I efshe kann. And if the reason is duche de tzibure, then it's sicher mistaver that you have an allowance to go and do it in a oifen where it's not costing. Moshe Kai Gardner from the terrace. Ja, hier kommen Geschehen und so ist, ja.
Okay, Grace Shkoyach. Shitake not need any cheshboinus and people him how to get the shvui mat and Hashem should all come out on ken cheshboinus. Hashem. Okay, next we have Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Cohn, who's a magachir in the Mesifta and the Yeshiva of Yama Talmud. Please.
The Shulchan Aruch says a fascinating chiddush in the Shabbos Reish Nian. He says that although the Gemara says in Chilun Daf Paivuv, the Gemara says Bamesh Shufach Yechaseh, with the same method, Madgitin the Shchite, the same thing you should do Kisi Adam. That means that you are shoichet biyad, and you should be mechase the dam with the yad, and you're not allowed to be mechase beregel. The Gemara says why? Kedash lo ta mitzvahs beziyas ulav. You shouldn't degrade the mitzvah, and by doing mechase with the beregel, you're degrading a mitzvah. Says the Shulchan Aruch that this din is only issa to be mevaza mitzvah, to degrade the mitzvah, to cheapen a mitzvah. But there's no inyan, there's no din to be mechabedes a mitzvah. There's no inyan. Sometimes I don't cheapen something, I don't degrade it, but I don't give respect. So the Shulchan Aruch says that you don't have to give respect for mitzvah. All you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to be mevaza a mitzvah. But give kavod you don't have to. And he says two rayas to that. His first raya is that the Gemara said the Gemara needs a makar, that you're not allowed to cheapen a mitzvah. He says the whole makor is only, as the Gemara was stated in the Gemara, is only that you're not allowed to cheapen it. You don't have a makor for more. And the Gemara doesn't say more that you have to be mechabedes a mitzvah. It's mechates more. Was steht, and more than that, you can't say. That's his first rai. His second rai is, he says by Shabbos, steht in Rambam, that you have to be mechabedes a Shabbos. The Rambam says you should put on new clothing, clean clothing, nikiyah. The Rambam says that even though a person has a lot of shvochim, vavodim, the Rambam says that a person should do by himself to prepare for Shabbos. That's the kovet for Shabbos. If you prepare by yourself, you're giving respect for Shabbos. He says that the Rambam doesn't say by Kashim under the mitzvah, the Rambam that a person should do it by himself. There's a chiyuv, there's an inyan, but there's no chiyuv to do it by yourself. The Rambam states that a person should be yoshev and mitzape. That Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, yoshev mitzape for Shabbos. You don't find by Shim under the mitzvah that a person should sit and wait for mitzvah's lilith. There's no such halacha. So he says why? Because there's no din to be mechabed kashim mitzvah and shukadin mechabed zan kashim mitzvah in the mitzvahs. By Shabbos, sheit v'chibadetoi, there's a bezinter din that you should be mechabed as a Shabbos. But by Sham mitzvahs, there's no din to be mechabed as a Shabbos. Das ist der Chiddush des Shulchan Aruch. Is the Welt fragt, als there's a Medrash Tanchime steht anders. Medrash Tanchime steht, with a copy from it. Omer Reb Shimon ben Yechui, Umar Kodesh Burichi di Yisroel. Hayai mechaben es ha-mitzvahs. You should be mechabed, you should give respect for mitzvahs. Shehen shelichai. They're my messengers. Shelichai shadudam kemoisoi. And the messenger is just like the sender. Shlichai shadudam kemoisoi, just as the sender by himself. Im kibadetu oisam. If you gave kovet for mitzvahs, ki ilili kibadetoni. You gave respect for me. Vim bezisu oisam, ki ili lichvoidi bezisu. Steht in Medrash Tanchime, beferish, that there's an Indian that you should be mechabed as a mitzvahs. And if you mechabed the mitzvahs, ki ili mechabed as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you're not mechabed mevazah as a mitzvah, ki ili mevazah. So, steht in beferish that there's a yadua Indian mechabed as a mitzvahs. I saw in a few songs bringing this kasha on the Shulchan Aruch. But Lamaise, if you think into it, I think it's not even a terror, it's a kasha ha'ib tzchashton. Why? Because if you medayik in the Gemara, you medayik in the Medrash Tanchime, the source, the makor, why it's also to be mevaza mitzvah from the Medrash Tanchime in the makor, the state in Bavli, is 200 mekoides. In Bavli steht, v'shofach v'chisse. It's a pasuk. The what? With the same method you did the shrita, with the same method you should do the kisi adam. And the reason is, steht in the Gemara, kedai shaloi da mitzvahs bezisol of mitzvahs, you shouldn't cheapen mitzvahs. You shouldn't disrespect mitzvahs. And Medrash Tanchime doesn't bring this pasuk. It just says misvara. It says it's a svara. What's a svara? A mitzvah is a shliach from the Eibishter. If it's shliach, shayim shliach shouldn't kamoisoi, and it's ki ili yimachabed rabbeinu shloim. So let's think into it. If it's a svara, and what's the svara? The svara is that a shliach, that the mitzvahs are shlichim from the Eibishter. So in Kai, what should be a difference between busy and covered? If the mitzvah is a shliach from rabbeinu shloim, why should be a difference that you're not allowed to be only? Can be mevazah the mitzvah, but there's no Indian to be give kovet for mitzvah. This is shlicha shouldn't kamoisa. The mitzvahs are ki'ilu. The mitzvahs are kili HaKadosh Baruch Hu by himself. So why should be a difference between busy and kovet? Mashaykin in the Bavli doesn't say the svar at all. The Gemara doesn't bring the svar. The Gemara says a pasuk. Akzeis hakosuv. What steht in pasuk? Pasuk steht shaloi ta mitzvahs busy salav v'shofach v'chisa akzeis hakosuv. The same method you did the shchita. The same method you should do the kisi adam and the reason is shaloi ta mitzvah busy salav. Of them said the Shulchan Aruch busy kovet nicht steht nicht mehr. If it's a svara, there's no difference between busy and kovet. So there's no kash on the Medrash Tachime. The Medrash Tachime is a machloikis with the Bavli. So there's a machloikis. The Shulchan Aruch is going with the Bavli. This is posh. I want to bring a riot to this that the Bavli is choidik. Another riot that the Bavli is choidik with the Medrash Tachime. If we'll think, let's add a shayla. Is there an issa to be mevaza a hechsher mitzvah? Let's say. Let's take example of shofar. A shofar is the shmoya kol shofar. The mitzvah is to listen to the call from shofar. That's the mitzvah. The shofar by itself that's not a mitzvah. It's just the aichetim. I can't make a kol shofar without a shofar. But the shofar by itself is only a hechsher mitzvah. Is there an issa to be mevaza a hechsher mitzvah or not? I would say that the Medrash Tachime. What's the svar? The svar is that the shliach from the Rebbeinu Shalom is kili the Rebbeinu Shalom. Who's the shliach? The shliach is the mitzvah, not the hechsher mitzvah. So if I'll find the Gemara says that you're not allowed to be mevaza a hechsher mitzvah, that's going to be a kash in the Medrash Tachime. In the Mishnah, the Bialocha brings that there's a issa to be mevaza. There's a issa to be mevaza a hechsher mitzvah. He brings a raya from a Gemara. The Gemara says that it's also to be metzachtzach a shofar b'mayra glayim. The Gemara for us not covered. Zog the Bialocha, a shofar is only a hechsher mitzvah. And Aval Biken, you see that you're not allowed to be metzachtzach a shofar with mayra glayim. Why? Because mayra glayim is a mavaza mitzvah. Zog the Bialocha, you see from this that you're not allowed to be you can't be mavaza even a hechsher mitzvah. So you see from this that it's not like the Medrash Tachime, because the Medrash Tachime that you have to be mechabed the mitzvahs mitzad shehen shlichim shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I would say that the only the mitzvahs is the shlichim, the hechsher mitzvah not a shlich. Masha the Bavli, the issa is adim, tunush mevazas on a mitzvah. Stama agzes hakos, but let's think about it. You can still ask a kash. Maybe there's only a issa to be mevazas the mitzvah. Make a taste to say that you're not allowed to be mevazah hechsher mitzvah. The pasuk by itself is speaking about a case where you shoifech. The Gemara is speaking about a case where you're doing kisi adam. Kisi adam is the actual mitzvah. It's not a hechsher mitzvah. So when you mechases adam, you can't be mevazah. The kisi adam, you can't be mevazah. So I said, the Medrash Tachime, you don't understand. Why should be a issa to be the Medrash Tachime? Why should there be a issa to be mevaza hechsher mitzvah? The hechsher mitzvah is not the shlichus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's only the hechsher mitzvah. But you can ask the same kasha, the Bavli, that the issa is taken not al shlichus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The issa is tamad din that you can't be mevaza mitzvah. You can still ask the question. But the pasuk, the gzeis hakosav, we should state that din state is by mitzvah. Nicht by hechsher mitzvah. We're talking about a case from kisi adam. Kisi adam is the actual mitzvah, not a hechsher mitzvah. It's meicha teisa to say even by hechsher mitzvah. But if Hamadayik Belishna Gemara, the Gemara says, yeah, the first page. The Tanya Idoch. Yeah, the second. The Tanya Idoch. Machon of Gemara. The Tanya Idoch v'shofar v'chisser. B'meh sheshofach bo yichas. Shelo yichasenu b'regel. So the Gemara shelo yahai mitzvahs b'ziyas olav. Why does the Gemara add on these words? Shelo yahai mitzvahs b'ziyas olav. What? What's the Gemara with b'ziyas olav? Shelo yahai mitzvahs b'ziyas. You're not allowed to degrade a mitzvah. Was steht in der Gemara ist nicht doch kein Ding to degrade the mitzvah. Nicht doch kein Isse zum Mevases an das mitzvah. The Gemara sagt, shelo yahai mitzvahs b'ziyas olav. What the Gemara means, it's not allowed to be on you. You shouldn't be this. So zan meviza of dich, of the gavras on the zan meviza the mitzvah. So nicht doch kein din ametonish mevazas an the mitzvahs. Do a din ametonish the mitzvahs on the zan meviza of dir. The fize hechsher mitzvah oichet. As long as it's meviza on hechsher, anything what you do with disrespect for a mitzvah, it's disrespect. And therefore, even on the hechsher mitzvah, geht oich on the is. So the fize. To sum it up, we have a machlokes Medrash Tachime with the Bavli. The Medrash Tachime says that the makor from busy mitzvah is a svara. The svara is because it's a shlichon shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu and shlichon shel Udam kemoisoi, and therefore when you mechabed them, you mevaza mitzvah, you mevaza HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you mechabed the mitzvah, you mechabed the Rebbeinu Shloim. And therefore there's a Indian to be mechabed the mitzvah. Not only is it shouldn't be mevaza. The Gemara says Gzeis HaKosov, but the Gzeis HaKosov is that you shouldn't be mevaza mitzvah. Zog the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Fizeh, only is busy, kovet nisht. And afkemina hechsher mitzvah. It's interesting that in Charaiden, one before the last page, he does say Atanayu Achad Oso. She says she is zohe b'kvoid mitzvah. She says clearly she is zohe b'kvoid mitzvah. The ksiv gabe mitzvahs kisi adam v'shofar v'chise. Amesh shofar yichas adam b'yad v'loy b'regel shlo yita mitzvah b'ziyasolo. So he clearly says not like the Shulchan Aruch Harav. He says she is zohe b'kvoid mitzvah, and he brings the Gemara. So but Tabla B'tzido, he says, Ibe Medish Tachime, Pashas Vayigash, he brings the Medish Tachime. So obviously he puts these two together, so therefore he can say she is all b'kvoid mitzvah. But then Shulchan Aruch Harav did not put these two things together. He said there's Medish Tachime L'chud and the Bavli L'chud, and that's why I'm Shkashayches. I was listening to the Sigin and Seat Shmaya, I opened up a Mesilas Yesharim. Mesilas Yesharim in Chalik HaChasidus, he starts off, he says, in one of the parts of Chassidus, he says, Ikvoid ha-mitzvah v'yekoro, sheyechabed odom es ha-mitzvahs, v'lom v'chazal ha-mizor ausgelernt, von zeh kaili v'anvai, is noe lefon of the mitzvahs, tzitz is noe, talis noe, shoife noe. The Gemara says that, the Shulchan, the Mesilas Yesharim hat gesagt, that there's yodo ha'inyan mechabed al mitzvahs. And he says, but he says, the sibbe, is, what's the sibbe it's not the form of the mitzvahs, because with that you mechabed the mitzvah. So he says clearly that there's an inyan to be mechabed the mitzvah, and not from the makor, because in shlicha shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The reason is because the makor is from zeh kalim avayi, so it's not the form of mitzvahs. The shal is the Shulchan Aruch Harav. What do you say? There's no inyan to be mechabed the mitzvahs. In zeh kaili v'avayi, steht klar, they should be mechabed the mitzvahs. Teretz is pashut. Shulchan Aruch Harav hat verstanden. Das ist nicht the sibbe. Zeh kaili v'avayi is not because, the reason is not because he should be mechabed the mitzvahs. Zeh kaili v'avayi is the tzira from the mitzvah. Wieso seht aus a mitzvah? A mitzvah darf euch sein Schein, bechefse. It's not because I have to be mechabed the mitzvah. Also the Mesilas Yesharim hat verstanden, das hat den, I have to be mechabed the mitzvah, therefore I have to make it nice, that the medina shall cover the mitzvah. The Shulchan Aruch Harav hat verstanden, dass kaili v'avayi ist tamadin. Wieso darf so Aschir, wieso darf Zittes so sehen? Es hat Din, wieso der Mitzvah darf euch sehen? Also darf der Mitzvah euch sehen, aber es ist nicht kein Din, als Mitzvah Din Kibbutz, oder ihr darf mechabed an der Mitzvah. I'll finish off with the Beisalavi says that that a person gives tzedakah for oni, says the oni is considered a cheftu shel mitzvah. So the oni is just like your esrig now, and he says that just the same way you have to be mechabed the esrig, you can't be mevaza mitzvah, you can't be mevaza esrig. He says if you mevaza oni, you're over on the isse shaloi tay mitzvahs beziyas olav and v'shofar v'chise, and he says it's a isse doiraisa. Hinai, look in the last page. Be'aysh noisen tzedakah le'uni, v'nimtzem mekayim be'oni mitzvah tzedakah, v'oid kamu mitzvahs, as the oni mamash gebe beginnes esrik. Be'aysh not lotzes boy. The Ava gab dache, v'chayin oser linig boy minig bezoyen, kemoide der Shinne b'Shabbos gabe kisi adam, b'mesh shofar yichash lichaseni b'regel shlo et mitzvah beziyas olav. Keine oni mamash be'aysh noisen loy oser litten loy bezoyen cholile. So normally understand if to be Stam, you shouldn't be mevaza oni als Stam. Normally, just as you're not mevaza a different person, you shouldn't be mevaza oni. Bei Salavi sagt, dass oni, du aber sind der isse mevaza an oni, kedai shlo mitzvah beziyasot, because you mevaza mitzvah. But that's the shana shaila, if you have to be mechabed oni. Enu chanami, you're not allowed to be mevaza oni, the shaila, you have to be mechabed oni. So the Fide Shulchan Aruch Harav, the alte Rebbe hat gesagt, darf nicht mechabed sein oni. Aber lo the Mesilas Yesharim, darf man Yom Echabed sein, Oni darf man Yom Echabed sein. An Afkemine Loch Lamais. And noch a kleine Afkemine, the Gemara says in Shabbos, the Gemara says that Vazeh Kai Vavai, so the Gemara Zeh Kai Vavai, the Kol Misnoi. Kol Misnoi, a nice pen. The pen should be a nice pen. So it's Fasem is fake. Was ist Scheich? Am I the Seife darf sein Schein? Verstehe ich, die Seife darf sein Scheine Seife. Aber was ist Scheich? The pen darf the pen sein Schein. So this Vasem is because B'shas Ksiva Seife Toidi Mekayim Mitzvah. So even though on the Seife Toidi by itself, you don't see a difference if you wrote with a nice pen and not a nice pen. But B'shas the Ksiva has to be done Derech Kovet. So that you see also that there's a din to be mechabed a mitzvah. If the din just the mitzvah darf sein shine, the mitzvah the side of the toilet, the mitzvah is not the pen. So you see from the Sasem is that there's a din to be mechabed a mitzvah. Shkoyach.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Next we have Rabbi Levi Yitkin. To make a tikkun on the flyer, I wrote Levi Yitzchok by mistake. His name is Levi. So I have Levi Yitkin. I'm making it the Kvalom. No, that's that will leave for the flyer. It's nicht genug. It's nicht genug. The Shliach of the Rebbe in Nons Island and Verdun. Please, a grace of shkoyach.
Shkoyach, Shachat, Chasher Rabbanim. We go through some of the sugya, at least Rashi Prakim of the sugya of Ha'isik b'mitzvah patam and ha'mitzvah. The sugya Arucha in a few places in a lot of shittus Rishonim, there's Alter Rebbe. At least we'll touch the surface on some of the shittus or some of the svaris, and we'll see a little bit how the Alter Rebbe learns. So start with the Makir. The Makir is a Mishnah Masechta Sukkah Tav Chafei Amud Aleph. The Mishnah says, Shluchei mitzvah p'turim min ha-sukkah. Shluchei mitzvah apart from the sukkah. Rashi says, who is the Shluchei mitzvah we're referring to? Rashi says, Holchei b'derech mitzvah K'goyin l'moteira l'hag b'pnei rabbi v'liftei shvuyim. P'turim min ha-sukkah. Rashi says, why? Of course, what's the reason why P'turim min ha-sukkah? Because, of course, I'm Asik b'mitzvah patam min ha-mitzvah. And the Gemara says, the Gemara brings a limud b'na'an emili. The Tana Rabbanon, it's a beferish apasuk. V'shivtecha b'veisecha is prat le'isik b'mitzvah. And melachtecha v'derech is prat le'chasan. So mikan amru ha'kenis is absula patur. So we see from here the pashas from the reading of the Mishnah and the Gemara. We understand that ha'isik b'mitzvah patur and ha'mitzvah is midaraisa. The Torah says that once you're involved in one mitzvah, you're exempt from getting involved in another mitzvah. You don't have to work to get involved in another mitzvah. What about if you could do both? Okay, you don't have to do both. What about could you do both? So here we have an interesting Tosfos. It says right away, he asks a shayla, v'teima. If somebody has a tzitzis or tefillin, another place it says if you have a mezuzah in your house, you're going to say it's Asik b'mitzvah, he's patam in ha-mitzvah. You can't apply across the board that therefore you're patam from doing all other mitzvahs. Elamai. So Tosfos says, when are you patam from another mitzvah is if the first mitzvah is going to be in this battle from doing the second mitzvah, then you're patur from it. Right now you're doing for example, you're doing the mitzvah of Kabbalas Pnei Rabbi. You're going to see your teacher, and if you're gonna have to go to to find the sukkah, you're gonna go off the way from going to the Hakba Pnei Rabbi. So then, in such a case, Tosfos says, then you're exempt. But if you could do both, for sure you have to do both. This is bepashtus. You can't say pater min sukkah, pater min mitzvahs means everything. However, other Rishonim, the Ran Bereshim, the Ran says you can't do like that pshat. The Ran says a very simple thing. V'loi nirli kain, the pashta the milsa loi mashma kain. The word potter means potter. Potter means exempt. Potter doesn't mean you're potter from going out of your way to do it. Potter means you're completely exempt. And he says befeirish, the fichach nirli, the eisik ben mitzvah, potter min ha-mitzvah, afa pi sheyachal l'kayim ha'shtoyen. It says clearly, even though yes, you could do both mitzvahs, it was within reach and possibility to get both mitzvahs done. The Ran says, no, potter means potter. That's the words, that's how you have to take it literally. Be'emes, there's a Rashba that says, takes this, maybe this Svara Saran, or this understanding of the word potter, he mamish takes it, if you could say, all the way to an extreme. The Rashba says, Kevan, the potter min achirim, Harehi etzlo yachshov kedover sherashus ve'asur lahaniach mitzvasei mivnei dover shehi reshus. The Rashba says a very sharp lashon. In certain sense, extends the Ran's understanding of the word potter, means absolutely potter. Now, if it's potter, it means that like the other thing is not even a mitzvah anymore. So taking the dogma of the Mishnah, that someone's going to be makbeh pnei rabbi b'chag, and now diverting his attention to mitzvah sukkah is like in the middle of a mitzvah, getting involved in playing on your cell phone. Right now, the Torah says that ha'isik b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah. It means the other things are not even. It's that thing that uis mitzvah. Not just a person is pater, but for the person that's what uis mitzvah. It's a davar reshus. It's a very big chiddush. But again, that in the Chura, like the Ran says, the pasha de milsa, the word pater means that he's completely exempt. How does the Rambam learn? So the Rambam brings down this halacha about being going to makbeh pnei rabbi or bechlal shluchim mitzvah b'negei sukkah. So the Rambam perek vav halacha dalet zog the Rambam shluchim mitzvah peturim min sukkah bein b'yom ubein b'layla, say by day, say by night. Maybe later we'll discuss what this Safa of Bein Belayla is. Rashi said Shalosh and also, but Akapanim, what do we see from this lashon of the Rambam? Shluchim mitzvah peturim min sukkah, completely patur from the sukkah. And the Maggid Mishnah clarifies what does it mean. So he says, V'yesh mishakasav v'hu shayiyah be'in. The Indian she'im yeshiva sukkah he's batok tzas ve'esa mitzvah. Some people want to understand the Rambam that the pshat is when are you part min sukkah if you're going to do a mitzvah, let's say you're going to be makbeh pnei rabbi, is only if going to that sukkah is going to divert you from your way. So therefore you're going to take up time from being makbeh pnei rabbi. So then then you hold that pater min mitzvah. Sagt der Maggid Mishnah ve'ein nirkein mit divri ha'ge'inim, maybe it means the Ran, ve'loi mit divri rabbeinu. Why is the Rambam namashva like this? Shasasam ve'kasav le'mayla shluchim mitzvah peturim min sukkah alma bechol gavna peturim. In other words, in any scenario, even if yachol l'kayim shnayim, the Maggid Mishnah learns clearly that the Rambam holds peturim kozman sha'esik b'mitzvah. Why? Sha'esik b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah. So here we see the Shittas Haran at least the way the Maggid Mishnah just explained it, clearly is like the Shittas Haran, Shittas Harashba, not like Tosfos. And he says, Pturim and a Ha'isik mitzvah, Pater and a mitzvah, means absolutely Pater. You don't have to even try to do the mitzvah of Sukkah. Just to see the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, Siman Taf Resh Mem, in Hilchos Sukkah, the Alter Rebbe brings us down. And the Alter Rebbe says, Mi sheilech d'var mitzvah, kegin l'hakba pnei rabbi, pidin shvuyim kehitza b'zeh, v'higia liyishev oichel yasem mitzvasei, einay tzarech l'treich v'lasei sukkah, v'afilim yesham sukkah benuya, im einay mezumenes lefanov, einay tzarech l'treich v'lasei achareh, umutalei lachav v'lishem abayis. Why? Shekol zman she'einay bebeisei, v'utared machshavas ha-mitzvah v'tikuna, harei ze nikra oisik b'mitzvah, kol ha'isik b'mitzvah achas, ein tzarech l'treich v'lasei acha mitzvah acheres, b'eit shu oisik b'mitzvah zu. אף על פי שאפשר לקיים שתי המצוות בלי שום עיכוב למצווה שעסק בו, מכל מקום התורה פטרתי מלטרוח ולהחזר אחר מצווה אחרת. Which is why the Alter Rebbe seemingly clearly passes like that. Since you're always preoccupied with a mitzvah, and those bein b'yom bein b'layla, Alter Rebbe is the chura teaching that since he's taught b'machshavas ha-mitzvah b'tikuna, so therefore it seems to be that the Alter Rebbe is paskening k'shittas Haran, seemingly k'shittas Rambam, that you don't have to, not like Tosfos, you don't have a chiyuv, even though it's possible, even though it's right there, you don't have to be matriach to do the other mitzvah. Now the truth is, Sai the Alter Rebbe brings it that there is an inyan if you could to do other mitzvahs, but maybe at the end we'll get back to it. But Pashtas Potter in a mitzvah means Potter from the mitzvah. But the truth of the matter is, it's not so clear. It's not so clear. Let's take a closer look at Shittas Rambam. The Rambam Sefer HaMitzvahs in Mitzvahs Asei Reishut Beis, it's the mitzvah of Lifleis v'Nirbeis, the mitzvah of Pirya v'Rivya. So the Rambam says, Hu shasivar Lifleis v'Nirbeis, the Chavin l'kima min v'mitzvah Pirya v'Rivya. Now the Rambam over here mentions, Ukvar biaru shachasin patur mekriya shema. Kishayisa b'sula, why? Mepnei shu asuk b'mitzvah. So here the Rambam says here, the mitzvah Reishut Beis, that why is a chasen patur from saying Shema the first night? Because he is asuk b'mitzvah. There's a lot of Shailas, why did the Rambam has to bring it in this mitzvah Reishut Beis? L'chura, it's a din in Krishma, it's not a din in Pirya v'Rivya, but that's another discussion. But B'Pashtus, the Rambam, what do we see from the Sefer HaMitzvahs? The Rambam says that the Chasen Pater from Krishma, why? Because he is Asuk b'mitzvah. But if we look at the Rambam in Hilchos Krishma, the Rambam says something interesting. The Rambam says, Mi shahaya li beitarot v'nachbaz ledvar mitzvah. Zog the Rambam, pater mikol ha-mitzvahs u'mikrishma. Lefichach chasen shenasa besula pater mikrishma achi avayaleh. In other words, the Rambam suddenly says, 1 second, this din that a chasen is pater is b'chlal not unique to a chasen. The Rambam says, "Mi shahaya li beitar v'nechvaz al mitzvah, pater mikol ha-mitzvahs." A yitzepaya from this is also krishma be'achasen, but the etzem din of li beitar v'nechvaz al mitzvah applies to all the mitzvahs. Seemingly, this is if you say, it's a very big kiddush to say that if you're Torah and Nachbaz in a mitzvah, the Torah patas you from doing it. So a lot of people discuss what's the makar of the Rambam. But if you go back to the vision of Sugya, we can see the Malka of the Rambam is, and Lechura is the same way that Rashi learned the sugya. Because be'etzem meinyan we can ask. The Gemara said, "B'shivtecha b'veisecha prat la'isek b'mitzvah, b'lachtecha b'derech prat l'chasen." B'etach t'shayla, a chasen is also doing a mitzvah. Why do you have to have a special? Why do you have a special ptur? B'lachtecha b'derech prat l'chasen. B'shivtecha b'veisecha says about isek b'mitzvah. A chasen is isek b'mitzvah. He's automatically patur. Why do you need an extra limud? So Rashi asks the Shaila. Rashi asks, still it's trichel utreikroi. The Ram sagt the Rashi, you still need both psukim. Why? Because the I have a ksiv chad came in the chasen la behed the ksiv geroi. Hava amino leipater akasuv el teirech ve'oisa melachas mitzvah biyadayim imahalach lemitzvah. Aber chasen sheyeshiv bato v'yeina yesek el tare b'machshavas beila lo yipater akasuv. So you might so Rashi learns. Why do we need both limudim? Because from a shivdecha b'veisecha, I would only learn if you're doing a ma'isa mitzvah, either mahalach or b'yadayim. You're doing a ma'isa b'mitzvah, then you're patam in a mitzvah. But you're doing nothing. You're just worried about it. You're tarud b'dvar mitzvah. You're tarud b'dvar mitzvah. Maybe I would say that this is not called the esek b'mitzvah. The zok. Therefore, you need to have a clear pasuk to tell you. So it comes out, according to Rashi, this belach derech is clarifying the extent of esek b'mitzvah. They say it's one pasuk, but the lech derech is clarifying. Don't learn pshat. The b'shivtecha b'veisecha esek b'mitzvah means only ma'isa mitzvah. Even tirda the mitzvah also is considered the esek b'mitzvah that would make you part of our mitzvahs. The lechura, that's the pshat, and that's the makkah for the Rambam. The Rambam learn the same way. That the pasuk itself, the same esek b'mitzvah that we said, patam minekol mitzvahs, applies to all the mitzvahs. That same thing of prat lechasen is a big enough for all them. It's just clarifying that all the mitzvahs that a person is tarot v'nechbat, he's part of. And that's why the Rambam and Sefer HaMitzvahs calls the chasen pashas a esek b'mitzvah. He doesn't call that tarud. He calls it the esek b'mitzvah. Because the gather of esek b'mitzvah, according to Rambam, includes sai when a person is doing b'yadayim a mahalach a ma'isa mitzvah, and sai if he's taught of machshavas a mitzvah, it's also equally considered a taught of a mitzvah, and therefore he's part of a mitzvah shabbatayno. That's the pashas, the makar of the Rambam. The problem, however, becomes to learn like this pshat and Rambam. If we go back to mitzvah sukkah, what did the Maggid Mishnah say in the Shittas Rambam? That the Rambam holds, like the Ran, that when you're doing one mitzvah, you're doing exclusively that mitzvah. Part of that mitzvah means you don't have to be matriach to do the other mitzvah. Even if it's easy, even if it's accessible, you don't have to be matriach to do the mitzvah. That's the Maggid Mishnah, understood the Rambam before. But here in Krishma, the Rambam continues later on in the parak. The Rambam says, "Ko mishu patamikin likres Krishma imratz lahachmer atzmai likres kaira." The Rambam gives the option. If you want to be machmir, you could say Shema. And the Rambam said, but however, who should say taite pnuyalav avam hoyazah pater hikres mavul ein rashi lekres asher des yashav taite alav. Comes out the Rambam's giving, so to say, an opportunity to yet to mekayim shneim. That if you could work on yourself and to have yishuv adas, the Rambam holds you should do it. Rashai. You could do it. If we learn the Rambam, if we say that the Rambam holds, Eisig Mitzvah includes equally Maisa Mitzvah, like for example, going to the Hakba Pnei Rabbi and Tirdas HaMitzvah. How come, like the Maggid Mishnah by Sukkah, the Rambam doesn't mention this option at all? Like the Maggid Mishnah clearly says that you don't have to go, even if it's not going to take away from the Hakba Pnei Rabbi. The Rambam doesn't say you should try to go ahead and do it. The Rambam, at least that's how the Maggid Mishnah learned, that the Rambam doesn't hold that you have to look or even try to do the other mitzvah. Maybe it's like the Svaras Rajva even. That's Kedav and Ashus. It's even also to go to try to do the other mitzvah. But here, when it comes to Krishma, which is also part of Esav mitzvah, the Rambam suddenly says, you should try, Imrash, if you could, you should try to do it. What's the difference? So, there's common ways to answer this Rambam, Kadash Barabim. There's a few ways to answer this Rambam. I want to give one answer for the Rambam, which will negate to maybe understanding another Shittas Rambam as well. And that is, there's a chiluk ikri between the Eisek b'mitzvah when it's a Maisa, and the Ptur of Eisek b'mitzvah when it's only a Tirda. When it's a Tirda, is if the Torah is saying, it's not a ptur be'etzem. It's a eisig mitzvah and patam and mitzvah. But it's because the Torah says, I don't expect you to be able to meyashav daitei. But if you could meyashav daitei, there is that inyan to do. There's a rashi to do it. When it comes to Maisa, there's no imra. If you could, you try to do it both. When it comes to Tirda, the Ram Shidduch Rambam is try. If you could, you should try to do both. Maybe there could be the reason is because since it's something which is masur, the libay shakal adam, it's something which is already not mitzad the mitzvah's mechayev patam and a mitzvah. But it's the mitzvah is mechayev to be part of the mitzvah. So therefore, it depends on the mitzvah. It depends on the mitzvah. If it could be mitzvah, if it could be miyashav daitei, so then at that moment he's taka eisek b'mitzvah. He's taka eisek b'mitzvah. But the mitzvah could say that since the whole p'tur is only because the Torah rechenzech with my Torah, I could control myself. And there's other Rishayim that learn like this, that something davar amasal leiv, a person has that is just to say, this I could control, this I could do. But al kapanim, what do we see from here? We see clearly the Shittas Rambam, unlike maybe the Shittas, the Rambam doesn't bring this, other Rishayim also don't bring this, but comes out that the Rambam holds that Tirdas HaMitzvah is equally a Eisek b'mitzvah, just like Maisa b'mitzvah. Yes, in Din, you could be mamish. There will be a chiluk that if it's a Maisa, you don't have the right to do another mitzvah, and if it's a Tirda, you have the right to try to curb your Tirda, hold it back, and do another mitzvah. But both equally are considered Eisek b'mitzvah. Why is this important? Because there's another sugya says Pruta de Rav Yosef. This famous sugya of Pruta de Rav Yosef that says Hashem Aveda is Kishem Esachar. Hashem Aveda is din of Hashem Esachar. Dr. Rav Yosef, why is it considered Kishem Esachar? Because he says Bahi ano Deloi Baya the Meisvele Liftelanya. Have a Kishem Esachar. If while you're taking care of the Aveda, somebody comes knocking on your door and asks you for a donation, you can tell them I'm Meisik b'mitzvah. So it comes out, you don't have to give money, you're saving the money in your pocket. So therefore Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef holds, he's a Shem Esachar. So you see from here, Meisik b'mitzvah, patam and a mitzvah. Right away, Tosfos says, what do you mean? The whole time you have a Veda in your house, you can be part for mitzvahs. It's like we said earlier, if you're wearing tefillin, you don't have to do any other mitzvahs. If you're having mezuzah on your house, by the way, other mitzvahs means only asay. Of course, this asay you can never do. But if you're having mezuzah on your house, you should be part from other mitzvahs asay. So Taisus clarifies, and Taisus says we're talking over here about that you're actively doing a ma'isa to be shemer on the aveda. Sheteach letzarka. In other words, he's taking out, let's say, the carpet and he's airing it out. He's doing a ma'isa, a mitzvah that you're part of. That's what. Then it's considered a shemus zachar. And that's the now you're considered a shemus zachar, isav mitzvah, part of a mitzvah. But the truth of the matter is that if you look at the lashon Rambam, the Rambam says a very interesting lashon. The Rambam says, "Kol zman she'aveda etzloi," any time that a person is watching a lost object, im nikneva yavda, if it was stolen, if it was lost, chayiv achri yusuf, is your chayiv like a shemus zachar, v'im nansa, then you potter. Why? She'shemer aveda k'shemus zachar. Why? Mepnei shu esek b'mitzvah v'nifta b'kama mitzvah sasei. First of all, he doesn't mention rifta lanya. He says pater mikama mitzvah sasei, and he says then the Rambam adds 5 words. Kol zman shu esek b'shmirasa. So a lot of Mefarshei Rambam ask, it's a contradiction. The Rambam starts off saying, Kol zman she'aveda etzloi, he's like a shemus zachar. And he finishes off saying that Kol zman she'esek b'shmirasa. So which one is it? Is it Kol zman she'aveda etzloi? Or is it Kol zman she'esek b'shmirasa? Which one is it? So one of the terutzim given is the Rambam is going l'shitasi. The Rambam l'shitasi that esek b'mitzvah doesn't just mean that you're doing a pull like Teisva says, you're being sheteach letzarka. You're taking out the carpet and airing it out, or taking out the dust. According to the Rambam, even if let's say the aveda is a shamur, it's in your garage, it's okay, it's safe, you're not dealing with it. But there's listim in town. And now there's listim in town, you need a stronger shmirah. So it comes out the person now becomes more tarud. He's more tarud in the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, because since he's a shemus, he has to watch it. So it comes now tarud b'shmirasa. So it comes out according to the Shittas Rambam that a tarud v'nechvas of mitzvah is also patam in a mitzvah. Will come out according to the Rambam if a person becomes emotionally preoccupied with shmiras aveda, not b'maisa, but b'tidas alev, also then there would be patam in a mitzvah, unlike Taisus. And that's why the Rambam uses as a lashon. It could be kozman shaved atzlai. It doesn't only mean when the aveda you're actually doing a pu'ula to the aveda. The whole time you're being eisem mitzvah. Now it could be there's going to be levels. Sometimes you're less tarud, sometimes you're more tarud. But even if you're less tarud, and therefore you could win over that tirda and be misasik and other mitzvahs, there's still an inyan of eisek b'mitzvah. And if that tirda becomes so strong that it becomes nechbaz l'davar, Torah and nechbaz l'lashon Rambam was in Hilchos Krishma, hitaka would become the shittas Rambam patur. And therefore the Rambam says a lashon kol zman shel eisek b'shmirasa. He doesn't say kol zman shemetapel bo or kol zman shesheteach letzorka. He says, because again, the Rambam Shita is the gather of Esek mitzvah applies sai when you're doing the Maisa mitzvah, and sai when you're taught of a Nechvaz of a mitzvah. The truth of the matter is that this is also Shittas Rashi. I know a little bit the time is constrained. It's also Shittas Rashi. We can answer many diyukim in Rashi like this. I'll just bring out one diyuk in Rashi. Rashi, when he speaks about Rifta La'anya, the Yupater, when he speaks about Pruta de Rav Yossi, he says Yupater. Where do we the Esek with mitzvah pater and a mitzvah? Therefore, if you're Esek in Aveda, you're pater from giving tzedakah. Sagt Rashi, the Esek with mitzvah pater and a mitzvah, mi belachtecha v'derech nafkalon. You learn out from the word belachtecha v'derech. 1 second. Go back to the Gemara we originally learned. You didn't learn out from the word belachtecha v'derech. You learned out from the word b'shitcha b'veisecha. What does that Rashi mitzvah say? Belachtecha v'derech. So Elamai, it's mashma from here and other places that Rashi holds the same shitta. The Belechta Vaderech is coming to tell us it's not just Bishas Maisa Shmira, like Tesis wanted to learn, that Sheteach Litzarka. Even if you just misasik in it, you're tarred with it, Belechta Vaderech tells you also then is considered Esek Mitzvah, Patam and a Mitzvah. The Rambam, the Alter Rebbe, and the Simon Ches is many diyukim lakan how to learn Pshat and Alter Rebbe, how to learn the Pshat and Alter Rebbe. I'm not going to go into everything. I'll just be at least be Messiah with one word. There's a Teira Shleima and Pashas. Yesterday goes into all Arichas exactly how Matan Teira happened. Many shittas that the Eibush say all the Seres HaDibros. They want to say the first two. They say Aneich V'Layilach. They say only say Aneichi. Many shittas he brings in the Medrash. One shitta is that he said all Asara B'Vasachas. One of the shittas of the Medrash. From here, some of the Mepharshim say, from here we learn out Ha'esek v'mitzvah pater and mitzvah. Because what the Eibush was doing by Sinai, saying all the mitzvahs of Vasachas, was telling us that a person is Esek with one mitzvah, he has in that one mitzvah is nechel all the other mitzvahs as well. And that's this being brought down in many places in Chassidus, that when a person does one mitzvah, why is he part from all the other mitzvahs? Because all the other mitzvahs are really part of this one mitzvah. But the Rebbe brought once an interesting Zayar. The Zayar says a story that there was a group of people that were going for Pidyon Shvuyim, and they came to the Mishas were going to Pidyon Shvuyim. It was just learned they didn't say Shema, they part them in the Shema. They came to the Yenuka, and the Yenuka said, "Berechet the Voshaychu on from the Yereach Yelevushim, and Maga she didn't say Krishna." So that's an obvious question. Paisik mitzvah patam and mitzvah. Why mitamol? They say a Maga you were missing. So then the Rebbe gave a whole beer. It could be Shavuos Fabringen. That there's two parts in the mitzvah. In the signal of the Rebbe, there's the chukim of the mitzvah, and then the mishpatim of the mitzvah. The ratzon elyon of the mitzvah, the fact that every mitzvah is ratzon elyon, and this is v'shav v'chol mitzvahs, and then there's the mishpatim of every mitzvah. There's a tzir of every mitzvah. There's what every mitzvah accomplishes. So even though take Esek mitzvah pater and mitzvah, because you're doing all the other mitzvahs, but still command of v'layamrinan sav kol sav. To the tzir of that mitzvah, what that specific mitzvah dafuftan you didn't accomplish, and so therefore you're still missing something. So therefore a person should like the Rebbe finished in similar machas, certainly like Lashon Veran that miliyos toiv, a person should, even if he is a Esek mitzvah, if he could to do the other mitzvah and it's not going to harm the first mitzvah, obviously a person should do the other mitzvah. Which one dick I remember, the Rambam says about Mashiach, Heige b'teira v'Esek b'mitzvahs kedavid aviv. So the Michtav Klali, I once saw that Rebbe said, Esek b'mitzvah kedavid aviv. What's an Esek b'mitzvah? So the Rebbe in the Aretz b'tzayin to this Ran. That there's Esek mitzvah and there's Mekayim mitzvah. There's two separate things. A Mekayim mitzvah, a person has to fill on the side of Mekayim mitzvah. Eisig mitzvah means he's a ganzen preoccupied in the mitzvah that he's doing. So the Rambam is saying, just like by the Mashiach is hoige b'teira, it's not just loy b'teiras, hoige b'teira kedav David. Therefore, the mitzvahs, it's not just oisem mitzvahs. He's not just oisem mitzvahs, he's oisik mitzvahs. It means it completely preoccupies him. And like the Rambam says, the oisik mitzvah, he includes also his ganzen machshava, his deeper ma'isa, everything's involved in the mitzvah that he does.
Well. Okay. Yeah. Also. Achron Chaviv. Right after we're going to have Maidiv. Achron Chaviv. This is the most precious part of the Kийнus. And one of the Jungelite from Yagdiil Torah, Chazer Avort, from the Chaver who sit and learn and come here, usually Kavaitim, Chavrusas, Vechule. So, representative of the Jungelite, we have Reb Abo Amzalag, who will Chazer Nekuda. Shkoyach.
I want to say I'm doing this little nishmas. My uncle through marriage, Yosef ben Nisim, Shom Shavaliyim. So the story, this guy, he once went, there was a bunch of drushes going on, one after the other, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, and slowly the hall started to empty out, people are leaving. There's one guy, he's staying there. There's 5 people, 4, 3, 2, one guy, he's staying there, he's just going. He's listening. Finally, the guy finishes 12:30, and there's that one guy that's still there. So he goes over to him. He says, I saw you like my drasha. You stayed till the end. What do you take from it? What do you appreciate? He says, sorry, I wasn't really able to follow what you were saying. It's late. I can't focus. He says, so why do you stay here? He says, I'm the next speaker. Fine. So talk about Tam Kicker. So what Tam Ki'ikar is, we know in general that we're not allowed to eat chazer. For sure we can't eat chazer. What happens if someone has chazer, falls in the potatoes, or in the pot cooking, and then he takes out the chazer? Could he eat those potatoes? So we know, obviously no, because the flavor of the chazer went into the potatoes. Yeah? So you have 2 different types. Min, b'shein, and mina. You have 2 different types. You have chazer and potatoes, and you cooked it. So flavor goes inside of it, it's asr. Tam Ki'ikar, it's forbidden. Now there's 2 different shittas. There's many more in general, we can split into 2. You have Rashi who says it's the Abanan, and you have Rabbi Tam who says it's the Raisa. Machlekes Rashi and Rabbi Tam. And it's mashma from Mechaber and Simin Tzarech Chesed Beis, he paskins like Rabbi Tam, that's the Raisa. That when you have just a flavor of Isser, not only that it's Asr, it's also Midaraisa. Not just the Chazer itself, even its flavor is also Midaraisa. Can't even have a flavor of Chazer. So this is the background for Tam Ki'ikar. Now, there's a Gemara that tells you, it collects from all the different rules that we know when the flavor is bottled. When are you allowed to eat something that even if there's treif got mixed inside of it? So it's in Gemara, Chulin, Paragid Anosha, Daf Tzarech Chasam Alf. Rava says, he says, we know that there's shishim. Some places we know when you have shishim, it's mutter. We know sometimes it says, it depends on time if you taste it. And sometimes we know, the Gemara says that you give it to a kfela, you give it to a guy you should cook. If the cook tells you there's no flavor, then you know it's fine. So, I was like, when do we do it? When do you do shishim? When do you taste it yourself to see if it has flavor? And when do you give it to a guy you should cook? When do you use each one of these? So Rava says it depends. If first we're talking about a heter, and it's min, mishin, and mina, 2 different types, yeah? And it's heter, and you want to know if there's a flavor, but it's heter, so then you can give it to a Jew. If it's heter, then why do you need to find out? So for example, it's truma. If it's truma that got mixed up with other things, yeah, min, bishin, and min is two different types. Yeah, so you go give it to a kohen and he'll tell you if it has flavor. It's mutter for him. Or, for example, someone cooked meat with the potatoes. Now he wants to know if you cooked these potatoes now with cheese. So it's heter, these potatoes have meat, but they're heter, you could taste it yourself. You give it to a yid to taste, or yourself you taste, and you see if there's a meat flavor. If there's a meat flavor, then you can use it with the cheese. If it doesn't, then you could use it. So that's when you taste it yourself. When it's heter, and it's two different types. When do you give it to a guy to cook, to taste? So he says if it's iser, if it's chazer that went inside, or a bas v'chol when they already got mixed in, yeah, and you want to know if it has a flavor or not, two different types, two different things. So you give a guy to taste. When do you use shishim? So shishim is if you have the same type. It's not kosher milk, chol vacuum for Chabad. We don't take any chol vacuum, it's treif. And it got mixed with regular chol v'yisrael. You can't taste it. You can't tell. Maybe someone's a big tzaddik, you'll tell if there's chol vacuum, if there's a flavor. A regular person has the same flavor, you can't tell. Or you don't have a guy available. It's mimishin and mine, but there's no guy here. There's two different types, but there's no guy available. There's a potato, a little bit of chazer went inside. You took out the chazer, there's flavor going inside. But there's no guy available to taste it. So you can also rely on shishim. So the three different cases is, if you have a heter and it's two different types, then you give it to a kohen. If it's truma, you give a yid to taste and he tells you there's a flavor. If it's iser and two different types of things, like chaz and potatoes, so then you give to a guy to cook and he'll tell you. If it's the same type, or you have no guy available, so then you rely on shishim. This is the Gemara. Now you know it says when you have two Jews, you have three opinions. But when you're talking about Torah, you have many Rishonim, so you have many opinions, more than just three. So in this Gemara, there's four different ways to explain it. When do you use shishim and when do you use a guy? How does it work? Does a guy work when you have shishim or when you don't have shishim? We know there's a time you rely on a guy, but is that with shishim? Or are we machmir, you need 60 and a guy? Or being meko? That if you don't have 60, then give it to the guy. So first of all, you have Rashi. Rashi is machmir. He says you need shishim and you need a guy. You need to have both. If you have a guy available, you take him and you have to have shishim. If you don't have shishim, you can't rely on the guy. He's added on. You need the 60 plus you need to have a guy. If there's no guy available, or it's min b'shin mina, it's the same type, so then we rely just on 60. But if you're able to, you have to have 60 plus have a guy. That's Rashi who's machmir. Then you have three different shittas on being meko. Three different ways of meko with a guy. You're all talking about when there's no 60. There's no 60 and you can rely on a guy when he tells you there's no flavor. It's only 30 times, let's say. The potato is only 30 times the chazer. You give it to a guy. These three opinions says sometimes it could be kosher. Let's see the three different opinions. First one you have is the Ramban. Ramban says shishim works for sure, but if you have less than shishim, let's say you have only 30, you could give it to a guy. But it's only if you took out the treif. If you took out the chazer, you took it out, and there's only flavor, so then we could rely on a guy. If you removed the iser, then you could rely on a guy. But if the iser dissolved, you need shishim. You can't rely on a guy. If there's actually the iser dissolved with the potato, you can't rely on a guy. Then you have Ri, who's being more meko, and he says no, 60 is good always. If you have less than 60, we rely on a guy. Whether it's flavor or dissolved, the guy works no matter what. He's being the most meko. And then you have the Rambam. Rambam says you always need to have a guy. If you have 60, you don't have 60, you always need a guy. If a guy is not available, you can rely on shishim. A guy always works. A guy works when you have 60, you don't have 60, we always trust a guy. A guy works. If there's a big amount, if it's, let's say, a huge potato with a small little piece of chazer, the guy tells you there's no taste, we trust him. If it's a small piece of potato with a bigger piece of chazer, we also trust him. Obviously the chazer should be bigger than the potato, it's going to be suspicious. Fine, but we always trust the guy. And you always have to ask a guy. If you have a guy available, you need to bring him. You can't say, oh, I didn't see him. Okay, let me just rely on the shishim. No. call the guy over and you have to use him. Even if you have shishim, you need to rely on the guy. If you don't have a guy, then the Gemara says you could do shishim. So different ways. When do we do shishim or when do we do guy? Who's better? 4 different rishonim. First one, you have Rashi who says you have to be machmer. He says you always need shishim, Rashi says. And if it's a guy, you also need a guy. That's a Rashi. He adds the guy as a bonus. Then you have the Ramban who says 60 works, shishim works, but less than 60 only if there's flavor, not if the isser dissolved. The isser dissolved, we don't rely on a guy. You have the Ri who says no. He puts them equal. He says 60 always works, and the guy works for less than shishim if the isser dissolved or didn't dissolve. The guy works. You can use either one. And the Rambam says no. The guy is the best, and you always need a guy. If you have more than shishim, you need to ask the guy. You have less than shishim, you need to ask the guy. If there's no guy available, then we rely on shishim, or if it's min b'mina, if it's the same type. So these are 4 different opinions of the Rishonim. You see, with all these shishim and these bittles, yeah, you call a Rav, he tells you it's bottle, shishim, you need ben yemei, the guy tells you no flavor, you're relying on all these things, you eat it. So there's still a little bit of isra there, there's still something there. It's not gone, it's still there, it's bottle, but it's there. So then at the end of your life, maybe the person in his life has a small chazer in his stomach, from all those shishim that it piles up. But of course the Torah tells you that you can't eat chazer, and the same Torah tells you it's bottle. You're allowed to eat it. So Torah tells you it's okay. So maybe at certain times of Mashiach, we turn over the chazer to Kedusha, or flip it over. Able to eat it. You'll be able to eat it. So what's the halacha? Let's see what the Mechaber and the Ramah paskin. Mechaber, he paskins like the Rambam. He says if you have a guy, the Mesiach lefi tumai, because Ram paskins, when the Gemara says a cook, there's 2 ways we trust the guy. Either he's a cook, and he doesn't want to ruin his reputation because he's a cook. He says, listen, if people are going to see that I can't even taste what I'm eating, they're not going to come to my restaurant anymore. He's not going to trust my catering service. I don't even know what I'm tasting. I can't taste the difference between potato and a carrot. No one's going to come to me. So he doesn't want to lose his reputation. So he's a uman, he's a professional, so then we trust him. That's what the Gemara says. And the Rambam says also, if he innocently just comes in and he takes the potato and he says, oh, this potato doesn't have any flavor, doesn't have any taste, casually, we also trust him. That's what the Rambam says. And Mechaber Paskin is like the Rambam. If you're going Mesiach lefi tumai, it's okay. The Rambam says, it's also, we don't trust a guy. We don't trust a guy. To be machmer meiko, we don't trust a guy. You always need shishim. Never trust a guy. So the Shach, he goes into the Ramah, and he's medayik in the words of the Ramah. The Ramah says that we don't trust a guy. It doesn't say we don't trust flavor. You could think maybe it's not that he doesn't trust the guy. Maybe he trusts that the guy doesn't know what he's tasting. He doesn't know what he's doing. He tastes, and he might not realize that there's isser. Not everyone's an expert, so fine-tuned to know if there's a flavor or not. You have to have expertise. Like there's those professionals that they smell the wine, they sniff it and they know al zachin about it. They know what it needs. Not everyone knows exactly every single taste. Yeah? So maybe that's why the Ramah is machmer. But the Ramah said we don't trust the guy. He says we don't trust taima. It didn't say we don't trust tasting. He says we don't trust the guy. So it means we do trust a Jew. We do trust a Yid. Nowadays that would be applicable for basar v'chalav. If you have basar v'chalav, you have milk and meat. Not that they mix together, but you have a potato that has a little meat flavor inside of it. And we're not sure if it actually gave taste to the potato or not. And could you cook this potato with cheese now? So you just give that potato to a Yid who doesn't mind to be fleishik, just in case. Or machmer that it's fleishik. And he tastes it, and if he tells you there's no flavor, so even the Ramah would say afterwards you could cook it with the cheese, with the milk. It's one thing that we could die from the Ramah. For basar v'chalav. Also, some Achayim, they say they made a little diuk. Let's say you don't have shishim in it, that's a big hefsid and we want to save it. It's a big loss, we don't want to, and it's isur. And we're Ashkenazim, we don't pass on like mechaber, so what should we do? They came with a kunst. You get a Svardi, and the Svardi asks a guy. The guy tastes it, and he tells us the Svardi that there's no flavor. Now the Sephardi goes and he tastes it because he's allowed to be passing it to Mechaber, and he tells you there's no midoso. And now you are allowed to eat it because you're trusting a yid. You're not trusting a guy. So you could gain a little bit from the mechaber, that not directly from the guy, but you get the Sephardi trusts the guy and you trust the Sephardi the yid. Another thing the Shach says that we could trust we could actually trust a guy for Teisam. He says if it's over 60, some things ask for even more than Shishim. Generally we know Shishim, but there's some things that ask for more. One of them is like salt. Salt is very strong flavor, a strong taste. And I feel bad if I bottle, even like tavlin or salt, it gives a very strong taste. If it's also machmas atzmi, if it's also by itself, then you need more than shishim. So the Shach Haftes, he says there we could trust a guy. If it's more than shishim, then you could ask a guy if it has taste or not. The question is why over there is the Shach saying it's okay? Is it because it's the Abanan, or is it because Chesh Rashi? Different shittas why. Fine, the Shach and Taz, they ask on Mechaber. Very strong question. So Mechaber, you're contradicting yourself. You said over here that we trust a guy. A guy walks in innocently, he tells you I ate the potato and has no taste of chazer. So you say a guy Mesiach L'Tuma, you trust him. But you paskin in Sif Beis, the next Sif, the Tam Kiker, you paskin like Rabbeinu Tam, it's Deraisa. You're Machman, that's Deraisa. And we know a rule that we don't trust the Goy Mesiach L'Tumai by Deraisa. You have to follow the rules. This is the rule. Everyone knows the rule that a Goy is Mesiach L'Tumai, we don't trust him by Deraisa. There's one exception. It's by I have to look it up after. The one exception when we trust the I remember. One exception that we trust Mesiach L'Tumai by Isser D'Raisa is by Eishes Ish. By Eishes Ish, that a guy comes, he says, I went with this guy, with the husband, I was traveling, and he died with me, he died on the way, and I took a shovel and I buried him, and I bumped into a rock when I was burying him, and I got a huge bruise, and look, I have a huge bruise. So he was casually just speaking on the way, he was talking about his bruise, but on the way, he talked about burying this person, and he had no self-interest why he did it. The Mesiach L'Tumai, we trust him. By Isser D'Raisa, this is a unique exception. And the reason is because Avidah is Gavui, it's going to get revealed. There will be Meiko over here for Aguna, because we want to be able to help the woman to get remarried. Not always are full Eidos with two men, two Eidim, Kasha Eidim there. So we don't want the woman to be blocked, so they trusted even a guy. And they were machmir on her. To make sure that she's medayik very well, they were machmir on her. But if her husband shows up, let's say he didn't die, he's going to show up one day. He's going to show up one day, so then she can't be with her first husband and she can't be with her second husband. And the kids from both are going to be mamzer. So we're machmir on her, very strict. In the end, when the husband comes back, like this, when she says her husband dies, she will make sure to medayik very, very well. So it's only because Iguna, because of Iguna, they were Meiko. And also because we're being very machmer. So why over here is Mechaber saying by Issa V'Heter, by treif that went into a potato or into food, which is a Issa D'Raisa, he passes like Rabbeinu Tam. The Tam Ki Iker is D'Raisa, flavor is actual D'Raisa. So the guy, when he's giving you Eidos about a flavor, he's giving Eidos about D'Raisa. Why are you trusting a guy? So Taz, he tries to give an answer and then he leaves it off with a Shiloh. The Shach, he gives a very good answer. You have to also understand it. He gives a very shmak answer. That here it's not really Eidos. Why? Because he's being cut right away. He's being cut. If he tells you that there's no flavor of chazer, you could give it to somebody else. You could taste it yourself, and you could see that there is a flavor. You can say, you're a liar, you're a shakran. He's not going to lie right in front of your face. You're going to catch him right away. By Isha, he's also going to get caught, but he could be out of town by the husband comes over. He could say the husband died, yeah, and all the didn't get tricked and they let this woman get remarried, and then he leaves town, and then 2 weeks later the husband comes. Here, the guy's being caught right away. He's going to tell you that it's okay. He's tricking you. You're going to eat it. You're going to say, hey, you're a liar. You're going to catch him right away. So since he's going to be caught right away, the Shach says that we trust by even by Issa Deraisa in this case. Sometimes so it's a little thing of learning about Shishim with the guy. Thing that we could, the Rebbe says that the 60 days of Adar, usually there's 30 days of Simcha, but when you have a leap year, you have 60 days of Adar of Simcha. You include the Rosh Chodesh also, so you have 60 days, because one of them is a Mole, one's a Chaser. And he says the 60 days of the Simcha is Mevatel, all the negativity, anything bad things is Mevatel. So also we're learning about the Isser being Mevatel and Shishim, so all the negativities, all the Cheshach Hagalos, all the bad things should be Batel with Shishim, even the Aleph should be Batel, and we should have Mashiach now.
Amen. All right, thank you very much everyone for joining us. We're going to start Ma'ariv right away, and we should be Zoiche. To the Gula Mitzvah Shleima, take of Miyad Mamush, Terech Hadosh with the Teitze, Ma'agola Didan.
But till December they can come around.